Chapter 1882. Your SS was as plain as have you eaten today. Everyone's first reaction was not to wonder who SS was. Instead, Lin Wei was known for being a man of few words. Even if something big happened, he would not bother to repeat the same thing twice. Of course, Yi Ling was an exception. Yun Jian, on the other hand, was just a student in a hunting school. Everyone knew that once a student entered a hunting school, they would have to start all over again no matter how good their past achievements were or how strong their abilities were. For Lin Wei to ask Yun Jian the same thing twice, one could imagine that even if Lin Wei was expressionless, he must have 1,000 questions in his mind. SS. Master Lin Wei, you said she's. Why does this title sound so familiar? Jamil stroked his chin and began to think. Slaying God was the one who was known worldwide, and SS was just a nickname given to slaying God by some people. If one was an international racer, the title SS would be known worldwide. However, as a Secret Service assassin, there were only a handful of people who could call Yun Jian SS. Of course, many people in the underworld knew the meaning of SS and the meaning of SS being slaying God. However, it was obvious that the people here did not know the direct relationship between SS and slaying God. Yun Jian was not surprised that Lin Wei could recognize her. She merely narrowed her eyes. Master Jamil. Don't care about SS. Please save me first. Save me. Barty, who was tied to a tree with a parachute together with 211, dared not move as he was afraid that the razor blades would stab him, begged Jamil for help. What SS? At this moment, no one present knew who he was. Jamil was about to recall it, but after hearing Buddy's words, he immediately forgot about it. Hurry up and put him down. Jamil looked at Barty with disdain and ordered another subordinate beside him. Jamil's subordinate obeyed and quickly put Barty and 211 down. Lin Wei frowned when he saw that Yun Jian did not reply to him. Lin Wei was not stupid. Even if Yun Jian did not say anything, he already knew Yun Jian's identity. He really didn't expect that after going around in circles, the subordinate he was most proud of in the past would actually become his young madam. The corner of Lin Wei's mouth twitched. All right, since we've found him, let's all go back. We'll continue training tonight. Jamil waved his hand. However, just as Jamil finished speaking, Yun Jian's words rang out. Her words resounded throughout the entire place. Chief Instructor, your people are delusional enough to offend me. Are you going to let it go just like that? After Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was shocked, especially my Dan, who had wanted to make a move on Yun Jian from the very beginning. All the surrounding students were stunned. What was this place? This was a hunting school. No matter how much Jamil disliked Buddy, he was still Jamil's subordinate. And Yun Jian actually dared to publicly ask Jamil to punish Buddy? Was she joking? Did he want to die? Are you ordering me around? Jamil suddenly stopped smiling. He cast a sidelong glance at Yun Jian. The sinister look on his face made everyone present slightly fearful. Don't you know that the people who dared to order me around have already gone to see the King of Hell? Jamil's sinister face instantly changed. He suddenly glared at Yun Jian. His voice unconsciously rose as he said something that made everyone's hearts tighten. Everyone's hearts tightened. They were clearly shocked by Jamil's sudden change in tone. Is that so? What a coincidence. The people who wanted to offend me have already. Yun Jian looked into Jamil's eyes. She spoke in front of everyone without the slightest bit of fear. Yun Jian suddenly paused. She cast a sidelong glance at Buddy. However, under everyone's shocked gazes, Yun Jian flipped her right hand. A butterfly knife suddenly appeared. The butterfly knife twirled between her fingers and suddenly flew toward Buddy. When the naked Buddy saw this, he was so frightened that he threw himself to the side. However, this butterfly knife seemed to have known where he was going to dodge. It actually sliced through Buddy's throat at a frightening speed, killing him on the spot. The butterfly knife flew past Buddy's throat, pierced a tree, and bounced back. In front of all the students, including 211 and the group of women who were in cahoots with 211, Yun Jian easily caught it in her hand again. This process happened in 2 seconds. When Lin Wei saw this, his eyes flashed. This move, however, in front of everyone, Yun Jian's lips curled up slightly. Everyone was terrified. They couldn't believe that she had the ability and speed to kill Buddy with a butterfly knife in just 2 seconds. At this moment, Yun Jian followed up with two terrifying words. Chapter 1883. With that, Buddy's body fell to the ground at a speed that everyone present could see clearly. With a bang, his body fell to the ground, causing everyone's hearts to tremble slightly. Coupled with the shocking saber technique and speed that Yun Jian had just displayed in front of everyone. In 2 seconds, not only did she kill Buddy, but she also bounced the saber back and held it in her hand. One had to know that Buddy was not weak. As the subordinate of the hunting school's chief instructor, Jamil, how could Buddy be weak? Furthermore, Buddy was Jamil's subordinate. He had seen Yun Jian attack Buddy with his own eyes, and Jamil had protected Buddy just now. If Jamil could stop it, he would definitely not watch Buddy's throat be slit by Yun Jian. However, the problem now was that Yun Jian had killed Buddy in front of Jamil. Her skills were so powerful that no one could see it with the naked eye. Jamil did not even have the chance to react. He could only watch as Buddy fell to the ground. This speed of the saber, this killing move, not only did everyone present widen their eyes in shock, it also made Jamil, who had always been mysterious and calm, reveal a dumbfounded expression. Ah, and the group of women in 211's group screamed in fright. This group of women pinched their throats and screamed from the bottom of their hearts. The group of women in 211's group was different from Yiling. They had walked the opposite path from Yiling a long time ago, to be the slaves of this group of men. As for Yiling, she had grown up in the midst of killing and surviving. She had become a member of 211. All of these women combined were not as strong as Yiling alone. However, this was only when facing the group of women in 211. Compared to the others in the hunting school, Yiling's strength was still not enough. Although 211 and the others, who were even weaker than Yiling, were used to seeing dead people, when they saw Buddy die in front of them, they were still so frightened that their bodies trembled. It was as if they had seen some kind of horrifying scene. Of course, 211 was the one who was most afraid. After all, 211 was also one of the people who came up with the plan for Buddy's death. Jamil's face darkened, but he did not say anything. He also did not show the grief of losing his subordinate. It had to be said that Yun Jian's strength was too shocking. This kind of power, even he, Jamil, would not be able to resist in the hands of Yun Jian. She was such a young girl, yet she possessed such a terrifying strength. Why did someone like her come to the hunting school? Her strength couldn't be greatly expanded in the hunting school, could it? Jamil frowned. Suddenly, the group of women from 211 screamed and cried out in fear. It was like a piece of music, but it was so hoarse that they couldn't even speak clearly. It was very unpleasant to the ears. When the surrounding men heard the screams of the women in 211, they couldn't help but frown, but they didn't say anything. Shut up. Just as the screams of the women from 211 rang out, a soft shout suddenly rang out. These two words were filled with decisiveness, causing the women from 211 to shut their mouths in fright. They saw the owner of the voice holding the butterfly knife that was not stained by Buddy's blood. She stood there and turned her sharp eyes to 211. The moment Yun Jian spoke, 211's body trembled. His body unconsciously trembled twice, and he obediently shut up. SS. At this moment, Lin Wei's deep eyes flashed fiercely. He looked at Yun Jian and spoke again in front of everyone. This time, what came out of Lin Wei's mouth was not a question, but a confirmation of a person's identity. After speaking, Lin Wei's eyes were as sharp as swords. He turned his head to look at Yun Jian. In front of the group of people who were attracted by the word SS again, he spoke to Yun Jian and said the longest sentence Lin Wei had ever said. Chapter 1884. As Lin Wei's voice fell, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. Lin Wei, he actually said such a long sentence. One must know that Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of the Anhun organization, would never speak more than 3 sentences. Except when facing the leader of the Anhun organization. Reticent, this title was not for nothing. Lin Wei's reticence had reached a whole new level. Sometimes when he did not want to speak, he would just ignore people. This kind of thing was very common. But just now, Lin Wei actually said such a long sentence to Yun Jian. This made everyone present feel incredulous. As for what Lin Wei said, no one present understood. It was because Lin Wei had spoken to Yun Jian in Russian. The only thing that made everyone present understand was that Lin Wei's words were very long. Therefore, everyone present took a deep breath. In the end, when they finally reacted, Jamil looked at Lin Wei and said respectfully and carefully to Lin Wei, "Sir Lin Wei, you spoke to this little girl in a foreign language, can she understand?" No one present could understand Russian, including Jamil. That was why Jamil asked. Naturally, she could understand because most of Yun Jian's foreign language was learned in the Enhan organization's assassin training camp. And Lin Wei, without a doubt, was the one who taught her. Yun Jian was trained by Lin Wei. But Lin Wei did not say a word of this to Jamil. Seeing this, Jamil only twitched the corner of his mouth and did not dare to ask any more. Under the gaze of my Dan, Chen Yang, Ding Jianlin, and everyone else present, Yun Jian smiled and replied to Lin Wei in fluent Celtic, which was also words that no one present could understand. "This is what you taught me back then." Were these two addicted to speaking in foreign languages? Lin Wei spoke to Yun Jian in Russian, but Yun Jian spoke to Lin Wei in Celtic. Obviously, Yun Jian could understand Lin Wei's words, and Lin Wei could also understand Yun Jian's reply. But everyone present could only hear that Lin Wei's first sentence and Yun Jian's second sentence were different. In just a few sentences, the two of them had already spoken two different languages. Everyone present was shocked. Especially Yun Jian, she was so young, but had such amazing skills. What was even more frightening was that she could speak so many foreign languages. "It is my honor to be able to teach young madam." Suddenly, Lin Wei bowed to Yun Jian respectfully in front of everyone's gawking eyes. This time, he spoke in Polish. The people around them were shocked by Lin Wei's sudden bow to Yun Jian. Lin Wei, one of the four leaders of an Hun group, was bowing to Yun Jian in front of everyone? What did this mean? Yun Jian merely smirked and did not say anything else. However, the group of people around him was in a state of shock. The two of them spoke three different languages at the same time. It was really. After everyone had sorted out their thoughts, Jamil turned to look at Lin Wei and asked, "Sir Lin Wei, could she be someone to you?" This sentence was a test, and also to find out the bottom line. If Yun Jian was really someone to Lin Wei, then Buddy's death would turn into smoke. On the other hand, Jamil would never let it go. Unexpectedly, in front of everyone, Lin Wei cast a sidelong glance at the people around him, then stared at Jamil with his deep black eyes. He left behind a sentence that left everyone slightly stunned. Chapter 1885. Lin Wei's words were a piece of advice and a warning. He was telling Jamil and the others that Yun Jian was under the protection of the Enhan organization. No one was allowed to touch her. Anyone who disobeyed would be going against the Enhan organization. Lin Wei was usually a man of few words and would never joke. To be honest, people with low EQ like Lin Wei did not know how to joke at all. Hence, everyone knew that Lin Wei's words carried weight. And what he said was absolutely true. Jamil originally thought that Yun Jian would at most ask Lin Wei to keep an eye on her, so he was still considering if he should continue to do the questions because of Buddy. However, Jamil never expected Lin Wei to say something like that. Offending Yun Jian was equivalent to starting a war with the Enhan organization. Who exactly was she? How could she cause the Enhan organization to say something like that just because of her? The group of Special Forces soldiers around them, including the group of women from 211, were completely shocked. Everyone present had an illusion for a moment. If they offended Yun Jian, they would end up in a very bad state. After Lin Wei said that, he already thought of the miserable fate of this group of people if Yun Jian lost even a strand of hair. He retracted his gaze, turned around, and left without looking back with his right hand in his trouser pocket. Jamil swallowed hard. In the end, he didn't even dare to say a word to Yun Jian. Buddy's death naturally turned into smoke. After returning, they were supposed to undergo intensive training. However, because of this incident, Jamil directly asked all the students to return to their own dormitories. After returning to the dormitory, Yun Jian did whatever she was supposed to do. She showered, ate, and practiced at night. 3 days later, Yi Ling, who had been locked in Lin Wei's room for 3 days without going out, finally heard the news of Buddy's death. For some reason, Yi Ling heaved a sigh of relief. God knew how she had spent the past 3 days. Being in the same room with a man who wanted her to give birth to his child all the time. These days, Yi Ling didn't dare to sleep on the same bed as Lin Wei. At first, Lin Wei slept on the bed while Yiling hid in a corner of the room. Seeing this, Lin Wei grabbed Yiling and placed her on the bed. Seeing Yiling's resistance, Lin Wei, who didn't intend to do anything, directly put his hand around Yiling's waist and touched her plump bottom. Lust ignited, Lin Wei flipped over on top. In the end, Yiling resisted with all her might. When Yiling's jacket was half taken off, Lin Wei stopped. He hugged her and whispered, "Sleep." Then he closed his eyes. Yiling did not dare to resist. After hearing about Buddy's death, Yiling heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Buddy was dead, he would no longer be a threat when he returned to the female dormitory. The only person who had been spying on her was Buddy. Today, Yiling stayed in Lin Wei's room and waited for him to come back. She wanted to clarify things with Lin Wei. Buddy was already dead, so she didn't have to be afraid anymore. So everything that had happened before could be forgotten. With a creak, the door opened, and Lin Wei's handsome face was the first to appear. Yiling stood up from the bed, but she put her hands behind her back helplessly. Her beautiful sky-blue eyes stared at Lin Wei without blinking. Being stared back at by Lin Wei, Yiling blinked her eyes guiltily. Her long and narrow eyelashes fluttered slightly. Looking at her, she was extremely cute. Can I go back and stay with Yunjian? Seeing Lin Wei stare at her, Yiling felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't dare to mention what she had already thought of to say to Lin Wei. She suddenly opened her mouth helplessly. Forget it. She would go back to the female dormitory first. When Lin Wei came looking for her again, she would explain everything and make everything clear at once. Also, he had to apologize to him properly for using him. Chapter 1886. Lin Wei's words never left any room for rejection. Yiling blinked her eyes. Suddenly, tears flashed in her sky-blue eyes. What's wrong? Seeing a trace of tears suddenly flash across Yiling's eyes, even a person as calm as Lin Wei couldn't help but feel a little helpless. It was just that Lin Wei didn't show his helplessness. I miss home. All of you are forcing me. I want to go home. I haven't been home for 10 years. Other than my father and mother, no one is really good to me. I don't even have the right to choose here. Yiling's sky-blue eyes suddenly flickered up and down. She blinked. She didn't know why, but she felt a lump in her throat and wanted to cry. Yiling was 19 years old this year, 6 years younger than Lin Wei. Lin Wei was 25 years old this year. Yiling was spoiled since she was young, so she developed a princess temper that wasn't easy to coax. She would argue with her parents if she didn't like it. She would act like her parents were harming her. It could be considered a very vile type. Yiling was only 9 years old back then. However, she was spoiled since she was young. The 9-year-old Yiling was even more exaggerated than those teenage boys and girls in their rebellious period. It was probably because people lived in different environments that some of their personalities would change. The young Yiling had been spoiled since she was young, so her rebellious phase was obviously much earlier than her peers. However, when she was 9 years old, Yiling ran away from home after arguing with her parents. She was brought to the hunting school and underwent 10 years of inhumane training. In these 10 years, Yiling hid in her bed and cried. She also thought about suicide. However, she survived. At this time, she finally understood how good her parents were. If you stayed at home and argued with your parents every day, you might even have the thought of never seeing your parents again for the rest of your life. Therefore, many students wanted to choose a place as far away from home as possible when they were choosing a university. That way, they would never see their parents again. However, when a person left their parents to live outside and saw the other side of society, they would crazily think of their parents. A university student, no matter how bad they were, would still go home and see their parents. But Yiling was different. After being brought to the hunting school, Yiling dreamed countless times about the parents she hated the most when she was young. They were the parents she wanted to see the most after experiencing the heartlessness of others in the hunting school. But even such a slim hope was too extravagant. All these years, Yiling had suppressed her immense pain in the bottom of her heart and displayed her most tenacious side in front of everyone. Because she believed that as long as she survived, she would be able to see her parents again. He couldn't die. He absolutely could not die. He absolutely could not give in. It was with this hope that Yiling managed to survive. Those who had never experienced this feeling would never understand that when faced with the cruelty of the world and the true disappointment of others, the easiest thing to think of was still the parents that you hated the most and were the most impatient to nag in your ears every day. Yiling didn't know what was wrong with her today. She actually squatted down and hugged herself while crying. She couldn't help but vent her emotions in front of Lin Wei. Her tears were like water flowing out of a faucet, flowing non-stop. Lin Wei's heart couldn't help but tighten when he saw this. Reaching out, Lin Wei grabbed Yiling's wrist and pulled her up from the floor into his warm embrace. I won't force you anymore. I'll make you bear children for me willingly. Lin Wei would never change the person he had set his mind on. In the female dormitory, Yun Jian was lying on the bed when the door was knocked lightly with a stone. Yun Jian opened the door and walked out to see Phantom Shadow waving at her from a grove not far away from the dormitory. Ce had been writing her a letter almost every day recently and the content was unbearable. Yun Jian walked toward the grove. Taking the envelope from Phantom Shadow as usual, Yun Jian opened it and saw the familiar handwriting. Xiao Jian, I miss you so much. I really want you to be bedridden for 365 days. Yun Jian blushed at the sight. Just as Yun Jian was about to turn back to the dormitory, a familiar fresh scent came from behind Yun Jian as someone hugged her from behind. He hugged Yun Jian from behind and leaned down to her ear, smelling the scent that he was so familiar with and loved so much. He was instantly mesmerized. Chapter 1887. It was around 9 o'clock in the evening. Today's training had ended early. Usually, training would end at 11 o'clock. She would wake up at 5 o'clock the next day, so she only had 6 hours of sleep. Today's training had ended early, so Yun Jian took a shower and rested in the dormitory. It was the last part of autumn, so the wind at night was very strong and cold. She had to wear 2 layers of clothes during the day to not feel cold. At night, she had to wear a thick layer of clothes. When Yun Jian heard someone knocking on the door with a rock, she knew that it was Phantom Shadow. Since Phantom Shadow was here, he must have been sent by Ce to deliver a letter. Thus, Yun Jian only put on a shirt and came out. After receiving the letter, Yun Jian hurriedly opened it. After reading the letter, she was hugged from behind by a pair of large hands. When she smelled the familiar scent, Yun Jian was suddenly moved. At this moment, Ce had his arms around Yun Jian. He bent his lean back slightly and pressed his lips against the side of Yun Jian's neck. It was as if he was smelling the fragrance that belonged to her. His heavy breathing hit Yun Jian's neck. Yun Jian's body trembled slightly from the numbness. At her abdomen, Ce's arms around Yun Jian tightened. He suddenly felt that she was wearing very thin clothes. Thus, he frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "Why are you wearing so much? Why are you wearing so little? What if you catch a cold?" His heart would ache. Ce didn't say the last sentence. "I'm here to get the letter you sent me. After I get it, I'll go back to my room." Yun Jian reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She pursed her red lips. "Next time, you're not allowed to wear so little." As Ce spoke, he let go of Yun Jian's hands from behind and took off his jacket to drape it over her body. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded. She didn't know why, but when he said this, her heart felt warm. Ce hadn't rushed over in the middle of the night just to see her. To be honest, ever since Yun Jian entered the hunting school, he knew her every move like the back of his hand. Including the fact that Yun Jian was now living alone in her own dorm. 3 minutes later, Yun Jian led Ce, who already had a plan, into her dorm. Once they entered the room, Ce locked the door that was not exactly secure. As he wished, Ce walked into the dormitory that used to have 4 people. Now, there was only Yun Jian. As soon as he entered the dormitory, Ce's wolf nature erupted. Pressing Yun Jian onto the bed, Ce pressed himself on top of her. His breathing was slightly heavy. He had been separated from Yun Jian for a period of time. Although it had been less than a month, it had been more than 20 days. Once a man had sex, his mind would be filled with bad ideas. Ce was no exception. "Don't. This is..." Yun Jian was about to resist Ce when Ce leaned over and kissed her little mouth. "It's in the room. It's in the room. She's hiding a man. I saw it with my own eyes. Master Jamil, I've even told you about this. You must protect me." I don't want to die. I don't want to die like Master Barty and die without knowing why. Outside the room, a large group of people was led by 211 to the door of Yun Jian's dormitory. Even Lin Wei had been called over. But looking at Lin Wei's expression, it seemed like it had nothing to do with him. Inside the room, Yun Jian was being pressed down by Ce. Before she could do anything, there was a sound from outside the door. Yun Jian blinked. Ce narrowed his eyes. His most beautiful moment had been interrupted. At this moment, he had the urge to kill someone. Outside the room, 211 had already led everyone to the door. She pointed at Yun Jian's dormitory aggressively and said to Jamil and Lin Wei, Master Lin Wei, Master Jamil, 16 must be hiding a wild man in the room. She must be unable to stand the loneliness. Just now, I saw a man follow her into the dormitory with my own eyes. Our hunter school can't keep such people. Even if he's a student, we can't forgive him. Chapter 1888. The more she spoke, the more she felt that she was powerful. At night, the women in the dormitory next door were already lying in bed, and 211 was a snobbish woman to begin with. The status of 211's women in the hunting school was no different from prostitutes. Unlike Yi Ling, 211's women in the hunting school could be trampled on by any man. Perhaps other women felt that they had fallen and could just accept it with open thighs. But 211 was different. 211 would learn to climb up. She would climb up the social ladder and cling to people with higher status. Just like Buddy from before, he was someone 211 wanted to cling to. 211 knew how to use her body to seek benefits or to obtain protection. Tonight, 211 had just climbed to a new height. After finishing a few rounds of unspeakable things with that man, she rushed back late at night and saw Yun Jian walking into her dormitory with a man. Now that Yi Ling was taken away by Master Lin Wei, this was something everyone knew. This meant that Yun Jian was the only one in the dormitory where Yi Ling used to live. When 211 saw Yun Jian walk into her dormitory with a man, she felt a burst of excitement. The hunting school system was very strict. Students were absolutely not allowed to have an affair with anyone. So when she saw that a man actually followed Yun Jian into Yun Jian's dormitory, 211 immediately ran to find Jamil, Lin Wei, and everyone else to come over. Halfway through, she also alarmed the people who were this year's hunting school students like Yun Jian. After being called over by 211's exaggerated words, everyone followed. 211's words were very loud. At this moment, standing in the female dormitory, she attracted the women in the other dormitories. At this time, the women were all waiting to see Yun Jian make a fool of herself. Hearing 211's words, Lin Wei's eyes flashed slightly. Before Jamil could speak, Lin Wei said, "She won't steal a man. Except for the young master. Master Lin Wei, you know her. If you want to side with her, then I have nothing to say. But is she treating our hunting school's rules like child's play?" NB211 stood beside Jamil and used his body to touch Jamil while saying these words at the same time. Jamil was not someone who could be seduced by beauty. He pushed 211 away and was about to speak when the door to Yun Jian's dormitory opened. Yun Jian appeared in front of everyone. Not long after her shower, she put on a tight-fitting outfit with a jacket on the outside and a pair of black, tight-fitting trousers that accentuated her perfect figure to the fullest. At this time, Yun Jian gave people a kind of unusual beauty. A large group of men present were dumbfounded. They couldn't help but hold their breaths. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Yun Jian was slightly jealous when she looked at him and sneered. "Yes, there is a man." She actually admitted it. 211's eyes bulged. Just as 211 was about to use this as a pretext to make a fuss, he saw Yun Jian's cold smile. Just as 211 thought Yun Jian would say something to refute him, Yun Jian flipped her hand and she took out the butterfly knife again. Butterfly knife. The scene of Buddy's death was forever engraved in 211's heart. 211 was so frightened that his face changed. He quickly hid behind Jamil. Jamil's expression changed. Although Lin Wei warned him that Yun Jian was protected by an Hun, Jamil still wanted to teach Yun Jian a lesson. Otherwise, Yun Jian would be so arrogant. Was she trying to climb over his head? Ahem, since you have already admitted that you are hiding a man in your dormitory, Then according to the rules of our hunting school, students who are not allowed to have illicit relations with others during training you. Just as Jamil said this, he saw a tall figure flash out of Yunjian's dormitory door. That person had a breathtakingly handsome face. It was as if this world couldn't nurture such a handsome person. Everyone present took in a deep breath. For a moment, they were in a daze. This person really existed in this world. They saw that after Ce walked out of the door, his eyes were fixed on Yunjian. He walked to Yunjian in front of everyone and reached out to hold Yunjian's small hand. Just as everyone was shocked by the picturesque scene in front of them, Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. Suddenly, Lin Wei, who was standing beside Jamil, stood in front of Ce and bowed slightly. Just like that, he respectfully addressed Ce in front of everyone. Chapter 1889. Lin Wei suddenly took a step forward and bowed at the unbelievably handsome man. His low exclamation made everyone's jaws drop. Jamil was so shocked that he blanched, unable to snap back to reality for a long time. Young Ahead? A man that Lin Wei addressed as Young Head. A man that even Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of an Hun group, had to treat with respect. Jamil was not the only one who was stunned. All the students around, including 211 who called Ce a wild man, were stupefied. There was only one doubt in everyone's mind. Who was this man who made Lin Wei lower his head? Amen. Ce grabbed Yunjian's hand and played with it gently in his large palm. His gaze was fixed on her throughout, but he replied to Lin Wei coldly. Ce rubbed Yunjian's soft hand. He did not look up at the crowd, but his innate aura forced everyone to stare at him. After a moment of silence, Ce spoke. His nonchalant manner made it seem like nothing in the world could catch his eye other than Yunjian. I heard that someone called me a wild man just now? As Ce spoke, he brought Yunjian's hand to his large palm and interlocked their fingers. His Xiao Jian was beautiful. She was beautiful everywhere. She was beautiful. Her hands were beautiful too. Xiao Jian was the prettiest under him. If Yunjian knew that Ce was thinking about this right now, she would probably give Ce a good thrashing. There was no need to guess what Ce was thinking. Since Ce had said that, it meant that he was furious. What angered Ce the most was not that he was a wild man. It was that 211 had just said that his Xiao Jian was hiding a wild man? Did that mean that Yunjian was hiding another man other than him? Of course, Ce believed that Yunjian would never do such a thing. In spite of it, 211 purposely made everyone think that Ce was annoyed to hear it. Young master, I'll get rid of the trash now. Even the usually calm Lin Wei couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat after hearing Ce's words. After Lin Wei finished speaking, he directly took out a pistol from his belt and pointed the muzzle at 211. No one connected the fact that Lin Wei addressed Ce as young master with the possibility that Ce was the leader of an Hun organization. Lin Wei only listened to an Hun's leader. But, how could the leader of an Hun be here? How could it be Ce? After all, Ce was still young. The people around them were all old foxes. Usually, the more ordinary a person was, the more realistic their guesses were. However, these old foxes would only make things more complicated. Could it be that the man standing beside Yunjian was a reclusive subordinate of an Hun's leader? His position was higher than the 4 leaders of an Hun organization? Even if it was an illusion, no one would link the identity of an Hun's leader to Ce. The more experienced they were, the more they would overthink and the further the truth would be from them. Ah! Gun! Gun! Ah! Don't kill me. When 211 saw that Lin Wei had pointed the gun at her, she shuddered in fear and turned to run. 211 did not expect that she had only wanted to embarrass Yunjian today so that she would be rewarded for reporting the incident. However, she had never thought that she would actually bring about a fatal disaster. However, before 211 could run out, Lin Wei's gun hit 211's heart with a bang, not missing by a hair's breadth. The surrounding people were so shocked that they sucked in a deep breath. The group of women who were with 211 saw 211's eyes widen and fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. They were so scared that they didn't dare to move. Dead. 211 dead. Compared to the people around him, Jamil's thoughts were much more meticulous. He had already guessed half of Ce's identity. Just as Jamil was unable to obtain a definite answer, Lin Wei suddenly turned to look at Jamil. He gave Jamil and the people around him a solemn warning. Chapter 1890. On the ground, 211's corpse reminded everyone that she had paid the price of her life for provoking this handsome man. The people around them didn't think much of it, but Jamil's eyes were wide open. Wasn't Lin Wei's words hinting to him indirectly? This handsome man, whom Lin Wei respectfully addressed as young master, was the leader of an Hun. Oh my god! The leader of an Hun. He actually had an affair with his cohort student. In addition, Lin Wei had warned Jamil that if he provoked Yun Jian, an Hun would definitely not stand by and watch. Jamil completely understood why Lin Wei had used such a solemn tone to warn him. That was because Yun Jian was an Hun's leader's woman. This truth was too scary, so scary that after knowing the truth, Jamil didn't even dare to reveal a single word of it to anyone present. Jamil believed that if the identity of an Hun's leader was revealed, he would definitely die a horrible death. This was a secret that was completely unspeakable. Jamil, who knew the truth, was so scared that his face turned pale. At this moment, even if Lin Wei stood up and said that Ce wasn't an Hun's leader, Jamil wouldn't believe it. It wasn't just because of the flaw that was revealed earlier. This time, Lin Wei's words were broken by 3 sentences again. Other than Yun Jian, Lin Wei would only speak more than 3 sentences in front of one person. That person was an Hun's leader. Thinking about it this way, it wasn't so unbelievable that Lin Wei had spoken more than 3 words in front of Yun Jian. After all, Yun Jian was an Hun's leader's woman. Hurry up and clean up this trash. Jamil didn't dare to say anything else. He pointed at 211's corpse and shouted at his subordinate beside him. This subordinate quickly found someone to take care of this matter. I don't know if someone from an Hun is here. I'm sorry for offending you just now. May I invite you to my place? Jamil walked over and looked at Ce respectfully. Because he was a little scared, he stuttered a little. All the students around, including the group of women who were with 211 and Gemel's subordinates, didn't have Gemel's brain. Therefore, they only thought that Ce was someone from Lin Wei or someone with a higher status in an Hun organization that the secular world didn't know about. Who would have guessed that Ce was the leader of an Hun? Jamil was probably the only one who could guess this. Jamil, who knew the truth, was really scared to death. His body was trembling, and the strong aura he had when he first appeared was completely dispersed in front of Ce. The way Jamil invited Ce was as if he was afraid that Ce would reject him. However, just when Jamil thought that Ce would not agree, Ce suddenly grabbed Yun Jian's small hand and finally turned her gaze to Jamil. That pair of sharp and deep black eyes stared at Jamil, causing him to feel a wave of panic. The young master has agreed. Why aren't you leading the way? Lin Wei glared at Jamil and spoke concisely. Yes, yes, yes. Hearing this, Jamil quickly led the way. That sudden change in his respectful attitude made everyone present feel like they were hallucinating for a moment. Chapter 1891. No one dared to say anything when Jamil asked Ce to leave. Yun Jian did not tag along either. It was Ce who did not want Yun Jian to tag along. Yun Jian could tell that Ce's gaze when he turned to look at her had a hint of lust. It was like he was plotting something in secret. Before he left, Ce bent down and whispered something that only the 2 of them could hear. Xiao Jian, wait for me tonight. Hearing Ce's words, Yun Jian was reminded of certain embarrassing scenes. Blushing, Yun Jian pushed Ce, who was leaning against her, away. It was only then that Ce flashed a handsome smile and left with Jamil. After being asked to leave by Jamil, Ce came back around 10 o'clock. However, Yun Jian did not let him have any meat tonight. Ce was very uncomfortable about it, but he did not force Yun Jian at all. It was just that the soundproofing here was terrible, so bad that even if one went to the washroom, the people in the dormitory next door could hear them doing so. This was similar to the time when he went to his grandpa's house in the countryside with Chen Sinny. Chen Sinny's cousin could be heard farting in the room next door. It was mysteriously similar. Moreover, there were many women in the room next door. If Ce did something weird to her, how could he not be noticed? Hence, Ce could only hold back his desire. In fact, he wished that everyone knew that his Xiao Jian was only his. The next morning, when the sun was still up, Yun Jian and the others did not even have time to do their morning exercises before Jamil called them to a corner to begin the next round of training. All of you are special forces from all over the world. You must master survival skills in the wild, so from today onwards, all of you will undergo a month-long wilderness survival training. In this month, all of you must use your own hands to search for food. Before entering the forest, I'll give each of you a dagger. Other than that, no one is allowed to bring anything else. My request is that even if you die in the forest, you're not allowed to retreat. I won't give you any tools to call for help. It will only increase the difficulty of your survival in the wild. Now let's go, Jamil said in a simple and clear manner. Survival in the wild was an essential skill for the group of people present. If it was the previous survival training that Yun Jian encountered, they would definitely be given a rescue tool or something to give up halfway before entering the forest. Here, however, Jamil would not give them the chance to give up. If you can't make it, you have to die. This kind of training could increase a person's fighting spirit by 100-fold. There was no room for retreat, so they could only move forward. What Yun Jian could not understand was why Ce was with her. Moreover, he was still holding her hand as they walked in this place where wild beasts roamed freely as if they were admiring the scenery. Walala. Not long after they entered the forest, it started raining. Without a word, Ce took off his jacket and draped it over her head to shield her from the rain before holding her hand to look for a shelter nearby. There's a cave over there. Xiao Jian, let's go hide from the rain, Ce said as he tugged Yun Jian's hand and led her to a large cave. The cave was rather spacious and the entrance was covered by vines. Ce was skilled in survival in the wild. There was no need for Yun Jian to do anything. Before long, Ce had already picked up some firewood and started a fire. Ce's jacket was wet but Yun Jian was unscathed because she had the jacket draped over her. Ce, on the other hand, was drenched from the rain earlier. Yun Jian could tell that the clothes and jacket he was wearing were all bought by her. Their colors had already faded. With a squint, Yun Jian suddenly leaned her head on Ce's shoulder. She thought that she was blessed. Xiao Jian. Not long after Yun Jian rested her head on Ce's shoulder, she heard his heavy breathing. In the next second, Yun Jian felt the world spin around her. He flipped over and pinned her beneath him, using the jacket that was not too wet to cushion her. Yun Jian realized what he was going to do right away. Don't. Not here. Yun Jian blushed when he was about to rip her clothes off. Xiao Jian, you're mine, Ce whispered in Yun Jian's ear. He directly pressed her two eyesore hands above her head. Chapter 1892. Over there. There's a cave over there. Let's go in and hide. It's raining so heavily. Oh my God. It's raining just like that. It's almost winter. Not summer. The weather is so unpredictable. Hurry, hurry. Hide in the cave. My clothes are about to get wet. There were sounds of people and hurried footsteps in the forest. Yun Jian, who was pressed under Ce's body, blinked. At this moment, both she and Ce were still disheveled. But at this moment, someone came. At this moment, the sounds of people outside were already in front of the cave. Outside the cave. At the sight of this huge cave, a group of people hurriedly ran over from afar. Braving the rain, they used their own backpacks and coats to block the increasingly heavy rainwater and rushed to the front of the cave in a short while. These people were conversing in Chinese. This forest was located in the tropical rainforest of Venezuela. To be able to hear Chinese here was equivalent to meeting Z people. It was very rare. In addition, due to the altitude and water source, it was possible to have both a tropical rainforest and a wasteland in the same place. In other words, the world here looked like it was about to become a desert, but there were trees. However, the trees were very withered due to the lack of water. In such a place, even if Z people were to travel, they probably wouldn't choose the tropical rainforest of Venezuela. But it was in such a place that a group of Z people appeared here. This group of people complained as they walked to the entrance of the cave. When they reached the entrance, they were shocked and stunned. Among them, a strong male voice saw a slight flickering light in the cave and was surprised. There's firewood in this cave. Is there someone? As he said that, he led the group into the cave. Because there was firewood in the cave, they could only see the flickering light in the cave. Other than the surroundings of the firewood, Everything in the cave was pitch black. But when this group of people walked into the cave, they saw that the firewood illuminated everything in the cave. Yunjian had just tidied up her clothes when she saw this group of Z people entering the cave from the outside. This group of people saw the firewood before entering the cave and was prepared to see someone in the cave. But when they saw the people, they were still a little shocked. Yunjian and Ce didn't show any signs of shock. Ce's face was full of displeasure. There's someone here. You. Hello. The leader of the group, a man who was almost 30 years old, saw Yunjian and Ce and said to Yunjian and Ce. Yunjian and Ce ignored him. Ce was already lucky that she didn't kill anyone. The man did not feel awkward as he scratched his head and smiled at Yunjian and Ce. Sorry, we didn't know there were people here. It's raining outside, so we came in to take shelter. The man laughed and said, I see that the two of you are also from Z country, right? Haha. My name is Meng Zhang. They are my teammates. The man named Meng Zhang didn't realize that he had interrupted something good. He smiled at Yunjian and Ce in a friendly manner and introduced his 4 teammates. Then he looked at Yunjian and Ce and asked, By the way, are you two, like us? Are you here to investigate the strange incident that happened here? Yunjian's eyes flashed when she heard Meng Zhang's words. She asked, What incident? Brother Meng, I think they just got lost in the forest. How could they be here to investigate that incident? Instead of wasting time talking to them, it's better to pack up and continue moving forward when the rain stops. A short man standing next to Meng Zhang said. Meng Zhang looked to be close to 30 years old. He had a crew cut and was straightforward. He had the demeanor of a big brother. The short man standing beside Meng Zhang had an enigmatic expression. He glared at Yunjian and Ce, as though Yunjian and Ce were his enemies. The short man didn't look good. His nose was a little crooked, his face was thin, and his cheeks were sunken. This short man was called Wu Tianlin. Meng Zhang had 4 teammates. There were 5 of them in total. After Wu Tianlin spoke rudely, Meng Zhang reprimanded him. Then, he apologized to Yunjian and Ce. Sorry, he's just like that. He has a sharp tongue, but he doesn't have a bad heart. The 5 of us are part of a small investigation team. You might not know, but not long ago, we heard that someone was suddenly swept into another world. That world is completely different from here. There are immortal cultivators there. The strong ones can even fly. Horses have wings, and there are all kinds of magical beasts. Chapter 1893. Cough. But you guys don't seem to know about this? Haha. If you guys didn't know about this, you'd think I'm joking, right? But we believe that there really is another world, so we came here to investigate. Meng Zhang scratched his head as he spoke. Indeed, this was a very far-fetched thing to say. Another world, and there were cultivators in that world. Powerful cultivators could even fly. Horses had wings, and that was the legendary Pegasus. There were also all kinds of magical beasts. That was simply a world that the author of the novel had randomly made up. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, such a place wouldn't exist at all. I feel like I'm getting more and more ridiculous. Seeing that Yunjian and Ce didn't move, Meng Zhang scratched his head, obviously thinking that Yunjian and Ce didn't believe what he said. That's right. How could an ordinary person believe such nonsense when they heard it was true? Wasn't this something that only existed in mythical television dramas? Meng Zhang felt that since Yunjian and Ce didn't come here for the same reason as them, which was to investigate that bizarre matter, as normal people, they definitely wouldn't believe it. However, just when Meng Zhang thought that Yunjian and Ce would think that he was talking nonsense, Yunjian, who was standing in front of him, frowned. Ce, on the other hand, didn't look surprised at all, as if everything was within his expectations. Meng Zhang was shocked. Yunjian curled her lips and said, I believe you, continue. Meng Zhang hadn't seen someone like Yunjian in a long time. She actually believed such a bizarre thing? Therefore, Meng Zhang told them everything. That was half a month ago. I heard that someone in this forest was suddenly swept into another world. After that person woke up, the world had changed, and he was surrounded by things that he had never heard of before. What kind of cultivators were that? Powerful cultivators could even fly. Horses had wings, and all kinds of magical beasts. Wait, it was so bizarre that it was unimaginable. However, that person didn't know how he entered that other world. He didn't even know how he came back. After this matter was exposed, many people chose not to believe it. Of course, there was also a portion of people who believed it, such as Meng Zhang and the others. After getting this news, Meng Zhang and the others rushed here, wanting to find out what was going on. Meng Zhang wasn't clear about other things. After hearing Meng Zhang's words, Yun Jian's deep eyes narrowed again. Was there an entrance to the Yulong continent or other continents in the forest where the hunting school was located? Did this have something to do with her teacher asking her to come to the hunting school? Moreover, it was the Lord God, who was the former CE, who forcefully tore the tunnel out of the ancient tomb and into the Yulong continent. In other words, no one in the Yulong continent, the other continents, or even the deity continent could do this. Then, who opened the entrance to the continent near the hunting school? Are you looking for the entrance to that world? Yun Jian suddenly turned to look at Meng Zhang and asked. Yes. Meng Zhang nodded. Then, do you know where the entrance is? Yun Jian asked again. I have some clues, but I don't know the exact location. Meng Zhang replied. Are you guys thinking of going together? Brother Meng, you can't do that. Look at how skinny and weak they are. What if they drag us down? Yun Jian had just asked this question when Wu Tianlin, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up in a serious tone. After saying this, Wu Tianlin glared at Yun Jian fiercely. Yeah, I think so too. A woman standing behind Meng Zhang spoke up at this time. This woman was also a member of Meng Zhang's scouting team. Her name was Wan Menglin. Wan Menglin looked mature and spoke steadily. Although she didn't despise Yun Jian and CE, she agreed with what Wu Tianlin said. Even if we find a way to go to the other world, with their skills, it's still a problem whether they can protect themselves. After all, we were trained in Taekwondo. Chapter 1894. After all, Yun Jian and CE were still young. Yun Jian was still underage, and CE looked like she was in her early 20s. At this age, she should still be in high school or university, right? She should still be a student, right? Wan Menglin and Wu Tianlin were members of the scouting team, and Meng Zhang was obviously the leader of the five. Don't blame Wan Menglin and Wu Tianlin for being selfish. That was human nature. Yun Jian's tone just now clearly indicated that she was interested in another world. Therefore, Wan Menglin and Wu Tianlin immediately assumed that Yun Jian wanted to join in the fun. After all, she was a young girl. She would definitely want to join in the fun after discovering something so interesting. I do want to go. After hearing Wu Tianlin and Wan Menglin's words, Yun Jian didn't get angry. Instead, she said it very calmly. Although Wu Tianlin and Wan Menglin's words sounded like they were attacking Yun Jian, it was human nature. That was how human nature was. Let's use a simple example. For example, when you were playing a game, you would hope that you would be matched with a strong opponent, not a weak chicken. If you were matched with a weak chicken, even if you didn't directly attack them, you would definitely be unhappy after being tricked. This was human nature. Wu Tianlin and Wan Menglin were people who spoke their minds. They were afraid that Yun Jian and CE would shamelessly want to go with them and drag them down. Now, after hearing Yun Jian's words, Wu Tianlin and Wan Menglin were even more certain that Yun Jian wanted to shamelessly go with them. Therefore, Wu Tianlin and Wan Menglin's expressions became very ugly. Especially Wu Tianlin, who didn't have a filter and directly blurted out the harshest words. His words were directed at Yun Jian. Little girl, take a good look at your own weight. You still want to drag us down? You. Wu Tianlin raised his hand and walked up to Yun Jian in 2 steps. He clenched his hand into a fist, then raised it above Yun Jian's head and swung it twice. Wu Tianlin was about the same height as Yun Jian. Yun Jian was 1.65 meters tall. However, even if a man was the same height as a woman, he would still look much shorter than a woman. Standing in front of Yun Jian, Wu Tianlin felt as if he was shorter than Yun Jian. Wu Tianlin raised his hand to place his fist on top of Yun Jian's head, trying his best to raise it up. Before he could finish his words, Yun Jian's voice was heard. Wu Tianlin only felt a large bony palm grabbing his hand and squeezing it hard. Then, a long slender leg came kicking at him. Wu Tianlin didn't even see who did it. He was kicked to the wall of the cave, and then fell to the ground. This fall almost made Wu Tianlin vomit. Tianlin. Wan Menglin's pupils shrank when she saw this. She ran over to help Wu Tianlin up. Meng Zhang didn't look down on Yunjian and Ce from the beginning. However, when he saw the scene just now, his pupils were wide open. It was obvious that he was scared out of his wits. Everyone present saw it very clearly. Although the cave was only lit by a small fire, the moment Wu Tianlin scolded Yunjian and wanted to clench his fists to threaten her, Yunjian's eyes lit up when she saw Wu Tianlin. Ce, who had been silent all this time, grabbed Wu Tianlin's hand and sent him flying with a kick. His movements were so fast that he was like a ghost. Everyone at the scene was completely shocked. No one could have imagined that this young man in his early 20s would have the ability to move so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch his movements. Just as Wan Menglin helped Wu Tianlin up, Ce had already grabbed Yunjian's small hand. His cold gaze swept across the crowd, and his cold words made everyone's hearts tremble. His words were directed at Wu Tianlin. Chapter 1895. Wu Tianlin had merely clenched his fist and placed it in front of Yunjian. He had remained silent the entire time and even acted as if he hadn't heard such a strange thing. Ce, who wasn't interested at all, kicked Wu Tianlin away. This action caused everyone present to go crazy. Not only did Ce make a move because of this, but what was even more shocking was that Ce actually had such valiant strength. The 5 people led by Meng Zhang were not only a small scouting team, but they had also undergone formal taekwondo training. They were also considered taekwondo experts. Although Wan Menglin admitted that there were many powerful people in this world, she never imagined that Ce, who she had looked down on and thought was just a student, would actually have such frightening abilities. Could it be that you also learned taekwondo? Or sanda? Judo? Wan Menglin was shocked by Ce's appearance just now. At the same time, she was slightly captivated by Ce's handsome looks. Wan Menglin's knowledge was probably limited to that. Wan Menglin didn't think that a powerful person could learn anything other than taekwondo, sanda, or judo. He wasn't some secret agent or assassin from the international black market. There was only so much that an ordinary person could learn. Wan Menglin was already 25 years old this year, but to be honest, Ce's handsome appearance just now had indeed attracted her. Therefore, when she asked Ce, Wan Menglin was very much looking forward to Ce's reply. Unexpectedly, Ce grabbed Yunjian's small hand and stood to the side. He stared at her and didn't look away. Wan Menglin's mouth twitched when she saw this. What's so good about a sneak attack? Do you think you're so powerful? Wu Tianlin, who had been kicked by Ce, shouted at Ce when he regained his senses. Wu Tianlin then turned to look at Yunjian. Perhaps it was because of what Ce had said, but Wu Tianlin didn't dare point fingers at Yunjian. He just looked at Yunjian and mocked her disdainfully. She's just a woman who's being protected by a man. She's nothing. Wu Tianlin was obviously a man with a very bad temper. He didn't know how to hide his emotions, but he showed his most irritable side to the public. It was very easy for such a person to get into trouble when he met someone who really played dirty. Wan Menglin was obviously smarter than Wu Tianlin. At this moment, Wan Menglin, who had witnessed Ce's skills and had developed a favorable impression of Ce, spoke up. She spoke tactfully but mercilessly to Yunjian. You're a girl. It's good to be protected by your boyfriend. But for a girl like you, it's better not to go with him. How about this? You don't have to go. Let your boyfriend go with us. When he comes back, he can tell you about the other world. That way, she could be alone with Ce. Wan Menglin's face turned red as she thought about it. Everyone thought that Yunjian was very weak. But after Wan Menglin said this, Yunjian ignored her. Yunjian just leaned her head on Ce's shoulder and leaned her full breasts against Ce's chest. She closed her eyes. Seeing Yunjian like this, Wan Menglin clenched her fists. In the end, she couldn't say anything. She must be doing it on purpose. Ce enjoyed this feeling very much. It was soft. An hour later, the rain stopped. Yunjian and Ce wouldn't stay here for long. The same went for Meng Zhang and the others. Yunjian, Ce, and Meng Zhang's group of 5 had just walked out. A few figures appeared on the right side of the forest. The moment Yun Jian saw them, her eyes narrowed slightly. The leader was actually my Dan, who had always been at odds with her. He had threatened her earlier that if she dared to come to the hunting school, he would kill her. My Dan walked over step by step. He looked at Yun Jian ferociously. Suddenly, he revealed a strange smile in front of everyone. Then he looked at Yun Jian and said, 16, you're really here. Haha. I've said it before. If you dare to enter the hunting school, I'll make sure you won't be able to walk out of here. Today, I'll make it happen. Looking at my Dan's expression, it seemed like he had something to use against Yun Jian. Hearing my Dan's words, Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Menglin, and the others' pupils shrank. They exclaimed in confusion, hunting school? 16. This is... My Dan thought that Meng Zhang, Wan Menglin, and the others were Yun Jian's friends. Hence, he sneered and exaggerated the truth in front of Meng Zhang and the others. Chapter 1896. As my Dan spoke, she smiled as she took out a folding scimitar from her pocket. She held the folding scimitar in her hand and waved it lightly, then pointed the blade at Yun Jian. My Dan's actions were to intimidate Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, and Wan Menglin. It wasn't a coincidence that my Dan was able to find this place. From the moment Yun Jian and Ce entered the forest, my Dan had already bribed the person in charge of the hunting school's wilderness survival mission to obtain the location of Yun Jian and Ce when they were brought into the forest. If a normal person wanted to move from one location to another, it would definitely take some time to walk. When they entered the forest, it happened to be raining, and there was only one cave nearby that could shelter them from the rain. Thus, my Dan easily found Yun Jian and Ce. Seeing Yun Jian standing with Meng Zhang and the others, she naturally thought that they were her friends. Thus, my Dan didn't directly make a move. Instead, she used threatening words to make Yun Jian lose Wan Menglin and the others as friends. Reality proved that my Dan's threat was very successful. After hearing my Dan's words, Meng Zhang and the others did indeed show a frightened expression. Especially Wu Tianlin and Wan Menglin, who were the most unfriendly towards Yun Jian. Wu Tianlin's face stiffened. He originally thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl, and wanted to use this to persuade Yun Jian not to follow them, so as to not be a burden. Wan Menglin, who wanted to let Ce go with them, had an expression that couldn't be described as frightened. Hunting school, student? She. This time, the one who spoke wasn't Meng Zhang or Wu Tianlin, but Wan Menglin. Wan Menglin stared at my Dan with her eyes wide open, then looked at Yun Jian and then at my Dan. Her face was full of disbelief. Wasn't she supposed to be a weak and powerless young girl? How could she be a student of the International Hunting School? Hunting school. Basically, anyone who knew about international affairs would know what kind of school it was. Wan Menglin and the other 4 were all members of the scouting team, so they naturally knew about this. The Hunter Academy was a world-renowned training center for special forces. Every single one of the special forces soldiers who could enter the hunting school had been through hundreds of battles, had outstanding military achievements, and were the strongest among the people around them. That kind of person was a sacred and awe-inspiring expert. What Taekwondo expert? If they were to fight against them, they wouldn't even be able to touch the corner of their clothes. The gap between them was huge. Moreover, Wan Menglin and the others were not Taekwondo experts. They only knew a little Taekwondo. As for Yun Jian, she was also one of the students of the hunting school? TSK, you don't believe me. My Dan suddenly felt that things were getting more and more interesting. He immediately assumed that Wan Menglin and her group were Yun Jian's friends, so he sneered twice. She. How could she be a student of the hunting school? Wasn't she just an ordinary girl? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Wan Menglin, on the other hand, was stunned by Yun Jian's identity. Coupled with what she had said to Yun Jian before, her expression darkened and she looked terrible. My Dan was even more convinced that Wan Menglin was Yun Jian's friend. Look, now she was struggling, insisting that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl. Yun Jian stood not far away and listened to my Dan and Wan Menglin's conversation. She only smirked and sneered at their ability to understand, but did not stop them. At that moment, Meng Zhang's reaction was much better than Wu Tianlin and Wan Menglin's, but the expression on his face still changed slightly. Wu Tianlin also looked like he had eaten dog shit. There were a few people beside my Dan. These people were all students of the hunting school. They had been following my Dan since before entering the school. It was obvious that my Dan's position outside was higher than these people. Although they did not know my Dan's identity before entering the hunting school, they were still trying to curry favor with my Dan even after entering here. It was obvious that my Dan was not an ordinary person. Especially the bald man beside my Dan. He was burly and looked like a man who practiced martial arts. This man followed my Dan's words and thought that Wan Menglin and the others were Yun Jian's friends. Therefore, he sneered a few times. In order to curry favor with my Dan, he pointed at Yun Jian in front of everyone and pretended to be smart. He sneered at Wan Menglin and said, "You don't believe me? Heh, if she wasn't a student of our hunting school, how could she be here? Today is our hunting school's outdoor survival training." Chapter 1897. After the man finished speaking, Meng Zhang, Wan Menglin, and the rest were even more frightened. If the fact that Yun Jian was a student of the hunting school was unbelievable to Wan Menglin and the rest, then the name of the Han organization brought them endless fear. Wan Menglin and the rest were so shocked that they couldn't even speak. My Dan glanced at the man as if she was praising him. Seeing this, the man looked pleased with himself for being able to please my Dan. Just when my Dan and the man thought that they had successfully tricked Yun Jian's friend, Yun Jian wore a nonchalant smile and said softly, "That's right. Childish, ignorant." After speaking, Yun Jian grabbed Si Yi's hand with her small hand and walked towards the forest at the side. When they left, Yun Jian's cold gaze didn't even look at Wan Menglin and the rest. Even a fool would be able to see it. Yun Jian and Wan Menglin were definitely not friends. Seeing this scene, my Dan instantly felt that he was extremely stupid. Just when my Dan was about to shout and chase after Yun Jian with the dagger in his hand. Bang bang bang! 3 gunshots rang out. 3 bullets flew past my Dan's head, left arm, and right arm without missing a single inch. After the bullet flew past, it nailed into the tree behind my Dan and went deep into the wood. Seeing this scene, Wan Menglin, Wu Tianlin, and the rest were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground and trembled. They didn't know when Ce had taken out his gun and fired 3 shots at my Dan. At that moment, Ce had already put his gun away. He circled Yun Jian and looked at my Dan and the rest. He warned them seriously, "Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, as students of the hunting school, I will kill you all without hesitation." After speaking, he dragged Yun Jian and left. My Dan was so frightened by Ce's words that his body trembled slightly. He didn't know why, but he didn't dare to chase after her with his dagger in hand. Even though Wan Menglin had learned of Yun Jian's terrifying identity from my Dan, she still stared blankly at Ce's silhouette, wanting to chase after her. "Hey, wait!" However, before Wan Menglin could catch up to them, Yun Jian and Ce's figures had already disappeared. From Meng Zhang, Yun Jian learned the approximate location of the world entrance that sucked people into it. As for that world, was it the Yulong continent or some other unknown world? Yun Jian had no idea, but she had to find out. Thus, Yun Jian and Ce headed in the general direction that Meng Zhang had given them. At this moment, in the headquarters of an Han organization, the last time Si Luo told Luo Berry those secrets, he thought that she was pregnant and didn't dare to return to Xueying's place. He insisted on staying with Luo Berry. After that, Xueying angrily called for Mo Sen to bring Si Luo back from Luo Berry's place. It had been some time since that incident. Luo Berry packed her luggage and prepared to return home from an Han organization. "Sister Luo Berry, are you really going back? Can you bring Si Luo back to your place to play?" Si Luo looked at Luo Berry as she packed her luggage. The last time Si Luo was brought back by Xueying, he didn't stay with Luo Berry, but they still played together in the day. "I don't think that person at your place will agree." Luo Berry laughed and rubbed Si Luo's head. She had misunderstood the last time and thought that Xueying was being a jerk to Si Luo. Si Luo pouted after hearing that. "Then I'll be leaving. Help me say goodbye to them." Luo Berry rubbed Si Luo's head again and dragged her luggage out with a heavy heart. She didn't dare to tell him. She was afraid that he would make her stay again and she wouldn't bear to leave. Luo Berry was really determined to leave this time. What was the point of following him like this? The two of them didn't belong in the same world. Who knew that Luo Berry would bump into Emo-san the moment she walked out of the door with her heavy luggage? Seeing Luo Berry dragging a large suitcase, Emo-san's face, which had been smiling just now, instantly fell. His handsome face darkened immediately. "What are you doing?" Emo-san grabbed Luo Berry's wrist and asked. "I want to go home." Luo Berry didn't dare to look at Emo Sr. "You want to leave me that badly?" Emo-san tightened his grip. Luo Berry didn't dare to reply. She didn't know how to lie. Just as Luo Berry didn't dare to look at Emo-san, Emo-san suddenly grabbed her hand and forced her to look at him. The next second, Emo-san's words stunned Luo Berry. Chapter 1898. Emo-san was considered a gentleman. If it were Adam or Xueqi, one would force himself on her, while the other would force a kiss on her. They would not take the initiative. Although Emo-san's tone was very firm, he did not force himself on her, nor did he force a kiss on Luo Berry. He only used very confident words to say this. The four leaders of the Hun organization had one thing in common. They all had a certain level of attachment to the things they liked. Or to put it another way, as long as it was something they liked, regardless of whether you agreed or not, you had to agree. The reason why this was so similar was because the four leaders of the Hun organization were all personally trained by Ce. When they were very young, Ce had told them something. He said, "If you want something in this world, take it with your own strength. If you can't take it, think of a way to make it yours forever." When a person was a child, it was the easiest time to implant ideas. For example, as the saying goes, people are born with good natures. The reason why they become bad later is because of the influence of the environment and various other factors. When a person is born, they are still young. Generally, children at this age are the easiest time to be led astray. And Ce's words had penetrated deep into the hearts of Adam, Emo-san, Xueqi, and Lin Wei. Therefore, the four of them had such a similar point in common. At this moment, after hearing Emo-san's words, Luo Berry was so shocked that she stood rooted to the ground. After being stunned for a few seconds, Luo Berry was about to speak, but she was interrupted by Emo-senator. He grabbed her wrist and pulled Luo Berry into his arms. Then, he did not allow Luo Berry to refuse. "You're the one who provoked me. I won't accept any rejection." Emo-san was afraid that Luo Berry would refuse, so he quickly spoke first. Luo Berry had been interested in Emo-san for a long time. Otherwise, she would not blush every time she saw him. At this moment, although Luo Berry was shy and trembling, she still reached out and hugged him back. Then her face blushed, and she said as usual, "I thought you would hate me and not like me." Bathed in the sunlight, Emo-san did not wait for Luo Berry to finish her sentence. He leaned over and grabbed that little mouth of hers that was talking nonsense. The tropical rainforest of Venezuela. Yun Jian and Ce passed through a large forest and headed towards the place Meng Zhang had mentioned. Since Meng Zhang and company found this place, it indicated that the destination was not far away. Yun Jian and Ce walked for an hour before they arrived at the place Meng Zhang had mentioned. At that time, there were suddenly many temporary houses built with simple materials in the originally uninhabited place. There were people all around the house, making it feel like a paradise. However, this was not a paradise. Everyone here, without exception, had come for the other world in the legends. "Oh ho, 2 more little friends are here. My 2 little friends. This way please." Just as Yun Jian and Ce were blinking at this scene, a foreign man in his 50s or 60s walked over excitedly and waved at Yun Jian and Ce. Seeing the friendly expression on the old man's face and the fact that Yun Jian and Ce did not know the exact situation, they followed the old man. As they walked, the old man introduced himself. "My name is John. You two can call me Old Monster John. This is the nickname that everyone gave me." As he spoke, the white-haired but energetic old man who called himself John turned to look at Yun Jian and Ce, asking with a smile, "What's the matter?" Chapter 1899. Central Continent? This was the second time Yun Jian had heard of this name. Yun Jian could not help but frown. The last time she heard of this name was from Huyen Ba, the head of the Huyen family, who used to be the #1 family in the Yulong continent. Huyen Ba had said something substantial back then. Back then, Huyen Ba had gone to the central continent and overheard a conversation between two black-robed men. The two black-robed men said that when the sorcerer god fell, the Lord God had used all his spiritual power to go against the heavenly Tao and saved him. They also said that the Lord God and the sorcerer god had gone to a place called Earth, and they had even sent people to assassinate them. They also said that if Yun Jian and Ce wanted to recover their memories as the sorcerer god and the Lord God, they had to inject powerful spiritual power into the sandalwood box. Later on, when they were absorbing the sandalwood box's memories, someone had interrupted them. Yun Jian believed that all of this was done by the mysterious person. The most important thing now was that since the black-robed men had appeared in the central continent, was the mysterious person from the central continent as well? Moreover, her teacher had asked her to come to the hunter school to find him. Did this mean that her teacher was also from the central continent? Yun Jian's eyes flashed. Her intuition told her that she had to go to the central continent. Little friend? Little friend? Little friend? Hardadef waved his hand in front of Yun Jian's eyes a few times before he managed to get Yun Jian's attention. Yun Jian had not recovered from the shock. She only raised her eyes slightly to look at Hardadef. Haha, from the looks of it, the two of you probably don't know the details. Have you heard of someone who was accidentally sucked into another world and then mysteriously returned here? Hardadef was the first to speak. Yun Jian nodded. I've heard of it. Ce stood beside Yun Jian. His handsome face paired with his cold expression made it seem as if all of this had nothing to do with him. He only had eyes for her. The person who was mysteriously sucked into another world was my grandson, Joseph. The world he was sucked into was a place called the Central Continent. This was what the people in that world told him. John explained again as he led Yun Jian and Ce to a row of simple houses. My grandson plans to bring everyone to explore that world. However, we don't know how we're going to go there yet. Let me introduce you to my grandson, Joseph. He's a friendly person. Hardadef said as he led Yun Jian and Ce to a house. There were 4 or 5 people sitting around the table in the house. One of them was a man who was about 25 years old. He had beautiful golden curly hair. This man was John's grandson, and also the one who was unintentionally dragged into the central continent. Joseph, these are the 2 new friends. Hardadef introduced Yun Jian and Ce to his grandson before turning around to introduce Joseph and the others. Joseph was indeed a friendly person. When he heard that Yun Jian and Ce were going to the central continent, he pointed to the benches in the house and gestured for Yun Jian and Ce to sit down. It's a very beautiful world. Trust me, I'll definitely bring you there. According to my observations over the past month, the entrance to that world will definitely open again in 3 days. After Joseph introduced himself to Yun Jian and Ce, he spoke to Yun Jian and Ce. Yun Jian was good at replying, but Ce didn't say a word. Joseph's friends were both male and female, and they all welcomed Yun Jian and Ce. Joseph's words were filled with confidence. Yun Jian blinked and continued to ask him, "Why are you so sure that the entrance to that world will open again in 3 days?" Intuition, I guess. Joseph didn't explain much and instead gave Yun Jian a casual and charming smile. Chapter 1900. Yun Jian and Joseph were sitting not far away just now, so Ce had been listening and did not think anything was amiss. When he saw Joseph flashing a bashful smile at Yun Jian, Ce was enraged as he pulled Yun Jian's hand and walked out. How dare this man named Joseph smile at his Xiao Jian like that? Before Ce could pull Yun Jian out of the room, however, Joseph had a sense of justice. Joseph, who had a sense of justice, spoke up to stop them when he saw Ce tugging Yun Jian's hand and walking out. Hey, bro. You're going to break her delicate hand if you hold her hand like that. Ce was not that enraged initially, but when he heard Joseph's words, his piercing gaze was like a murderous sword that was directed at Joseph. Before Joseph realized what he said was inappropriate, he stood up when he saw Ce refusing to let go. His handsome face in the eyes of foreigners was instantly displeased. Hey bro, how can you treat a woman like this? Joseph had no idea who he had offended. As he spoke, he went over to pull Yun Jian away from Ce. Before Joseph's hand could touch Yun Jian, however, Ce had already pulled Yunjian into his embrace and dug his hand into his trouser pocket. It was empty. Where was their marriage certificate? Yunjian was exasperated. She had secretly hidden the marriage certificate that he had been keeping with him before this. Ce, who could not get his hands on the marriage certificate, had a glint in his eyes as he encircled Yunjian in his arms and gave Joseph a sideways glance. "Stay away from my woman." As he spoke, he grabbed Yunjian's hand and walked out. Hey, hey, hey. I told you it's not good to treat a woman like this. What are you doing? Joseph was worried about Yunjian, so he picked up his jacket and chased after them. When he reached the entrance, Yunjian and Ce were gone. F*CK, that bro isn't bullying a woman, is he? He's not being violent, is he? Joseph hurried after them as he thought about it. Yunjian blinked as Ce pulled her all the way to a cliff. She could feel that he was furious at the moment. However, he held her small hand with controlled strength and did not hurt her. "Where are you taking me?" Yunjian blinked and asked. Ce did not say anything, pulling her hand all the way to a place surrounded by dense bushes with a cliff behind them. Just as they made their way into the dense bushes, Ce pinned Yunjian against the edge of the cliff and bent down to kiss her with heavy breaths. By the time Yunjian came back to her senses, he was already kissing her with a strong sense of jealousy. The cliff was surrounded by trees that were connected to the dense bushes. There was a huge rock above them. As long as one did not walk into the bushes, one would not be able to sense that there was someone here. At this moment, Ce pushed Yunjian against the cliff. In order to prevent the small rocks from pressing down on her back, he placed his large palm on her back. Ce's kiss was ferocious and Yunjian's back felt a lot of pressure, but her back was unscathed. Ce's palm that was pressed against Yunjian's back was scratched by the pebbles, but he did not care. After the kiss, Yunjian wrapped her hands around Ce's neck. She wanted to ask Ce what was wrong, but she felt Ce raise her two small hands above her head with his other large palm and withdraw his other hand from her back. Yunjian could see that the back of Ce's hand that was pressed against her back was scratched by the rocks. It was even bleeding. "You're bleeding," Yunjian said anxiously. Before Yunjian could finish, however, Ce's bruised hand lifted her leg that was in the skirt, forming a 90-degree angle as he leaned forward. Chapter 1901. Reality proved that a man like Ce who had tasted meat couldn't help but be a vegetarian every day. Even if Yunjian was stupid, she could tell that he was angry because Joseph was too close to her. She had to admit that she liked Ce's angry look. Yunjian blinked slightly. Her legs were lifted and she suddenly wrapped her arms around his neck. It was a tacit consent for Ce to do something to her in the wilderness where there were only trees, bushes, and cliffs around them, but the place was well covered. Ce was also a normal man. Seeing his beloved woman hinting at him like this, he didn't hold back anymore and used his actions to prove his love for her. Hunting school. After sending Yunjian and the other students into the forest, Lin Wei and Jamie returned to their residence. The students had to survive in the forest for a month. In this month, even if the students were attacked by wild beasts and accidentally died in the forest, it was their own fate. Everything depended on one's ability. Of course, this wasn't the main point for Lin Wei and Jamie. The main point was that Lin Wei and Jamie could be said to have a relaxing vacation for this month. Lin Wei didn't plan to stay in the hunting school for long. And Hun's assassin training camp still needed him. But for some reason, he didn't want to return to Hun for this month. One had to know that among the 4 leaders of Hun, only Lin Wei was the most dedicated. It could be said that he had devoted his life to Hun. In the past, whenever Adam, Mo Sen, and Xueqi went out to play, Lin Wei would directly reject them and continue to train his assassin training camp. Lin Wei played a huge part in Hun's success today. Initially, Lin Wei had planned to return to Hun's assassin training camp for this month, but he didn't want to go back now. Returning to his simple bedroom in the hunting school, Yiling was sitting at the foot of the bed. Seeing him return, Yiling stood up fearfully. But she heard Lin Wei's words continue, "Pack up and leave with me." Yiling had stayed in the hunting school for almost 10 years and hadn't left for 10 years. She missed home and wanted to leave, but she couldn't. Therefore, after hearing Lin Wei's words, Yiling's gloomy face instantly lit up with anticipation. "I can leave this place?" Yiling asked Lin Wei in disbelief. Lin Wei was still a man of few words. He looked at Yi Ling, nodded, and then turned around to open the door, intending to leave for a while. Then, "Can I go home now?" Yi Ling's face was filled with disbelief. She looked at Lin Wei in disbelief and took 2 steps towards Lin Wei excitedly. However, just as she excitedly took 2 steps towards Lin Wei, Yi Ling didn't notice the smooth ground and fell directly in front of Lin Wei in the next second. Yi Ling had developed well and was very plump. With this slip, her ample bosom directly fell onto Lin Wei's arm. Feeling the warmth, Lin Wei's calm expression changed drastically. This is... Fortunately, Lin Wei's face was facing the door, so Yi Ling couldn't see his expression. By now, Yi Ling had realized her rudeness just now. She stood up straight with a blush while Lin Wei's expression returned to normal. Watch the ground when you're walking. Why are you running around? To ease the situation just now, Lin Wei coughed lightly and scolded Yi Ling. Yi Ling blinked. For some reason, she wasn't afraid of his scolding at all. Softer, softer. Yun Jian tried her best not to make a sound as Ce pressed her against the edge of the cliff to do something embarrassing. Her face was as red as an apple. Ce kept his eyes on Yun Jian. With a smile on his face, most of his anger dissipated. His Xiao Jian was the prettiest at this moment. Just as Ce was hugging Yun Jian, Joseph's voice came from afar. Chapter 1902. Joseph's voice was getting closer and closer. It was impossible for Ce to stop at this critical juncture. Ce kissed Yun Jian's lips and blocked her beautiful voice. Brother, brother, brother. Oh my God. Did he really bully her? That little girl looks so delicate. How could she have such a boyfriend? He even resorted to domestic violence. This kind of person should be arrested and sent to the police station. Joseph couldn't find them. After wandering around for a while, he started walking back while muttering to himself. Joseph was a righteous person. Even though he saw Yun Jian and thought that Yun Jian was pretty, there was no such thing as love at first sight. Love at first sight was based on the other party's looks. It wasn't love. Even though Lin Wei had said those words to Yi Ling when he first saw her, it didn't mean that Lin Wei had fallen in love with Yi Ling at first sight. Even now, Lin Wei still didn't love Yi Ling. He had only said those words because he found Yi Ling pleasing to the eye. Joseph had chased after them because he saw Ce's fierce expression. It was as if he wanted to eat Yun Jian up. Of course, eating here was different from being a loving couple. Joseph thought that Ce was going to beat Yun Jian up. It was domestic violence. However, after looking around for a while, Joseph couldn't find them, so he went back. After Joseph left, Ce didn't restrain himself at all. Yun Jian, who was pressed against the cliff, grabbed his shirt and didn't know where to put her hands. Moans came continuously from her mouth. In the little forest, the spring scenery was endless. Joseph searched for Yun Jian and Ce all the way, but he couldn't find them. Thus, he returned to the simple house where they had set up camp. Joseph's grandfather John, who had introduced Yun Jian and Ce to Joseph and had even told Yun Jian and Ce about the details, grabbed Joseph's ear. "Joseph, where did you go?" John asked Joseph. "Ouch, ouch, ouch. Grandpa, I saw that he was about to resort to domestic violence, so I went to stop him." Joseph had an innocent look on his face as his grandfather dragged him 2 steps by the ear. "That's enough. Why are you joining in the fun? Do you want to watch the lovey-dovey couple? My son of AB*TSH, grow some eyes, be careful not to be destroyed." John loosened his grip on Joseph's ear and muttered a few words of reprimand. John was in his 50s or 60s this year. He had a rich life experience, so he naturally saw through it. Hardadef could tell that Yun Jian and Ce weren't ordinary people. This was especially true for Ce, a young man. Hardadef thought of Ce and his eyes darkened. This young man was definitely not an ordinary person. He was not to be trifled with. In the grove, Yun Jian, who had been pestered by Ce thrice, was weak in the knees. Ce tidied Yun Jian's clothes back to their original state. He did not stop even when there were people coming over, and even after Ce tidied up Yun Jian's clothes, Yun Jian pushed Ce away and walked forward. Her legs were numb, but she had good stamina and could still walk. Seeing that Yun Jian was ignoring him, Siyi went up to hold her hand. Xiao Jian. Yun Jian shook Siyi's hand off and walked back a little angrily. He was angry for no reason just now, and now it was her turn to piss him off. In fact, Yun Jian was inwardly overjoyed. Just as they got back, Joseph went up to Yun Jian with his friends when he saw her. You're back. He didn't do anything to you, did he? Joseph asked Yun Jian. Siyi's expression darkened when he saw Joseph approaching Yun Jian again. He pulled Yun Jian into his arms and glared at Joseph from the corner of his eyes like a cheetah. Yun Jian ran her fingers through her hair without saying a word. Her face was terrifyingly red. Yun Jian, why's your face so red? We all saw it just now. He pulled you out selfishly. Don't tell me he hit you? Yun Jian, don't be scared. If you meet a scumbag, we'll definitely help you. Did he hit you? Your face is so red, right? A charming woman in her 20s with dyed purple hair and a high nose stood beside Joseph. She glared at Ce when she saw how red Yun Jian was and wanted to speak up for Yun Jian. Joseph and his friends were looking at Yun Jian, thinking that Ce had abused Yun Jian and wanted to stand up for Yun Jian. Noticing that Joseph kept staring at Yun Jian, Ce's jealousy rose again. He glanced at Joseph from the corner of his eyes and said without batting an eyelid in front of everyone, "You're the one who's going to make a fool of yourself." Chapter 1903. Ce's straightforwardness made Yun Jian blush. He actually dared to say such a thing out so directly. It was as if he was afraid that Joseph and the rest didn't know what they did in the forest. Hearing Ce's words, Joseph, his friends, and the rest of them did not know how to react. Made a child? In the forest? Joseph and his companions were all stunned. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough. Nikla, who wanted to speak up for Yun Jian, had a boyfriend. Nikla was the first to react to Ce's words. In addition, she was wearing a black, sexy, secret agent miniskirt and a tight-fitting black outfit. There was a butterfly knife tied to one of her legs under the miniskirt that no one could see. However, when Enila lowered her head slightly, she could see that Yun Jian's fair thighs were red from the friction. It was obvious that she had done something bad. Cough, cough, cough. Where were we? The entrance to the central mainland will open in 3 days, right? Hurry up, let's continue with our preparations. Nikla was the first to react. She dragged Joseph and his other friends into the house while everyone else was still reacting to the situation. Awkward, a mysterious awkwardness. Nikla was misled by Joseph's words. She really thought that Ce had bullied or abused Yun Jian. Nikla thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl. Nikla had a strong sense of justice. As a woman, if she saw Ce abusing or bullying Yun Jian, Nikla would definitely stand up for Yun Jian. Even if she had just met Yun Jian not long ago. But the man in front of her was a jealous king? He pulled her into the forest not to hit her, but... Cough, cough, cough. She couldn't think about it anymore. Nikla flicked her purple hair and pushed Joseph and his friends into the house. Outside the house, Yun Jian tugged at the corner of her lips. Ce's lips curled as he grabbed Yun Jian's hand, satisfaction written all over his face. Without a marriage certificate, he could still declare his sovereignty. His Xiao Jian could only be his. No one could dream about it. Hardadef was considered the supervisor here. He arranged a room for Ce and Yun Jian so that Ce and Yun Jian could stay here at night and rest during the day. Yun Jian and Ce rested here. In the next 3 days, Yun Jian got to know Joseph, his friends, Hardadef, and the people here. They were all friendly and friendly. These people were all modest and friendly, especially Hardadef. As long as there were people who wanted to go to the central continent and wanted to explore it, or people who were interested in passing by, he would take them in. Unfortunately, Meng Zhang and his friends who had interrupted Ce's plan in the cave not long ago were taken in by Hardadef as well. Yun Jian, who knew about this, did not appear in front of them, so Meng Zhang and his friends did not know that Yun Jian and Ce were here as well. It was only on the 3rd day when Joseph announced that he had found the exact location of the central mainland that Yun Jian and Ce appeared in front of everyone. Meng Zhang was stunned when he saw Yun Jian and Ce. Wu Tianlin, who had been harboring ill intentions toward Yun Jian, also glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of his eyes. Although he knew Yun Jian's identity before this, It was a huge blow to him. Hateful people were hateful. No matter how powerful they were, they could not change this reality. As for Wan Menglin, she could not help feeling jealous when she saw Ce with one hand in his pocket and the other holding Yun Jian's hand. Why was such an outstanding man hers and not hers? Was it because she met him too late? Yun Jian was also a student of the hunting academy. She was even related to an Hun group. Once she thought of this, Wan Menglin's heart clenched in jealousy. Is everyone ready? To be honest, I'm not sure if I can send everyone back this time. The other world is very dangerous, even life-threatening. If you don't want to take the risk, I advise you to stay. Chapter 1904. Joseph's words were said in all seriousness, as if he was making a solemn promise, but also as if he was a hero, a Superman. In Joseph's country, messiahs, heroes, and supermen were the targets that the boys yearned to be. And today, Joseph stood in front of everyone like a hero, saying those touching words to everyone. No one would say such a thing. Joseph's words must have come with a lot of determination. The group of people standing beside Joseph were all moved. Yun Jian blinked, but didn't show any signs of being moved. In the end, everyone unanimously decided that except for John and the older ones, the younger ones would follow Joseph. Whether they could return from this trip to the other world was unknown, and whether they could find the entrance to the other world was also unknown. Of course, Joseph and the others didn't know that it was only a matter of time for Yun Jian and Ce to find the entrance. The group of people followed Joseph and soon continued to move forward from the row of houses. Knowing that Joseph had been to the other world, everyone present was very interested. This was especially true for Wan Menglin. She followed closely behind Joseph and asked him about the other world he had been to. In the end, Wan Menglin felt as if she had been to the other world herself. It was as if she understood everything about the other world after listening to Joseph's words. Wan Menglin ran to Yun Jian, raised her head proudly, and boasted to Yun Jian. Did you know that there are flying horses in the other world? It's the kind of horse that can fly, just like the ones in fairy tales. Wan Menglin spoke as if she had been to the central mainland. Yun Jian gave a cold smile and held Ce's large hand, ignoring Wan Menglin. This scene made Wan Menglin so angry that her face turned green. At this moment, Joseph suddenly pointed to a spot and said to everyone, "Look, it's that cave. It's glowing." At that time, I fell down from that cave and arrived in another world. I remember that the cave was glowing as well. It's glowing now. Let's hurry over. Otherwise, we won't be able to go to that world. Joseph led the group to a cave. At the same time, the cave suddenly emitted a white light. This scene shocked the surrounding people. At the same time, Joseph suddenly shouted, "Let's go." With that, Joseph led the way into the cave. Seeing this, the people around Joseph also rolled in one by one. How could Wan Menglin care about Yun Jian and Ce now? She chased after them and rolled into the cave. There's a strong spiritual aura in the cave. Ce narrowed his eyes as he looked at the cave. Let's go over too. Yun Jian glanced sideways at Ce. Okay. Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked over. After everyone had entered the cave, the light in the cave was like a flash in the pan. It was as if it had never appeared in the first place. There was no more sound. The moment Yun Jian entered the cave and was enveloped by the white light, she felt as if she was bathed in sunlight. She felt dizzy. Perhaps it was because the spiritual energy injected into the white light was too strong, and Yun Jian's memory of the sorcerer god was incomplete, so she fainted with a headache. Yun Jian wasn't the first to wake up. When she woke up, most of the people had woken up too. What entered their eyes was no longer Earth, but a world filled with white fog and smoke. This was the central mainland. Yun Jian, you're finally awake. Your man is gone. We didn't see him around when we woke up just now. Could he have been transported to another place? Nikolai walked over after Yun Jian woke up and asked Yun Jian. Chapter 1905. Yun Jian's expression changed slightly, but she didn't show any signs of panic. She knew what he was capable of. Not to mention the central mainland, even in the gods' continent, he was a god at the top of the pyramid. He had the power to destroy the central mainland with a wave of his hand. Naturally, nothing would happen to him. But where did he go? Yunjian frowned. She didn't know. Are you still his girlfriend? Aren't you nervous that he's missing? Aren't you afraid? Shouldn't you be screaming? I don't think you're suitable to be his girlfriend. Do you think you can show off just because you're a student of the Hunter Academy? So what if you know the Hun organization? This is another world. You're nothing here. I don't think you're qualified to be his girlfriend. Wan Menglin acted as if she was the legal wife and Yun Jian had stolen her away. After hearing that Ce was missing, she ran over to Yun Jian and yelled at Yun Jian when she saw how calm Yun Jian was. The reason why Wan Menglin was suddenly not afraid of Yun Jian and ran over to Yun Jian was because they had entered a new world. Yun Jian was nothing here. Menglin, stop talking. This is not the place we know. Don't talk like a cannon. Be careful of getting yourself into trouble. Meng Zhang couldn't help but yell at Wan Menglin. Surrounded by a large forest, the air was filled with smoke. White fog filled the entire sky, giving people a feeling as if they had entered a fantasy paradise. This is the central mainland. Everyone, follow me. I know a friend here. He's the second young master of the Long family, one of the three great families of the central mainland. Joseph stood up and said. Thus, Joseph led the group to the Long family. Brother Joseph has been to this world before. You're amazing. You even know someone from this world. Wan Menglin had been pestering Joseph all this while. Now, she even called him brother. Wan Menglin felt proud of herself for being so close to Joseph. Thus, she turned to look at Yun Jian. Wan Menglin glared fiercely at Yun Jian when she thought about the fact that Ce was missing and how calm Yun Jian was. She looked like she was bragging about herself but also like she was mocking Yun Jian. Yun Jian ignored her completely. Hearing Wan Menglin's words, Joseph scratched his head embarrassedly. Not at all. We just met by accident. Just as Joseph and his group arrived at the Long family, which was ranked third among the three great families of the central continent, the Long family, when he entered the door, he saw such a scene. The inner courtyard of the Long family was filled with corpses. In the sky above the Long family's courtyard, an expert was baptizing the Long family. It was obvious that the Long family was about to be exterminated. As for the Long family's clan leader, he was resisting the attacks of that expert with all his might. Clearly, he was on the verge of collapsing. The group of young men and women beside the Long family's patriarch were the descendants of the Long family. Seeing this bloody scene, Joseph and the surrounding people cried out in alarm. When the second young master of the Long family saw Joseph, his pupils constricted and he shouted at Joseph. Go! Go! Joseph! Leave this place! Run! In the central continent, it was common for families to fall. Sometimes, a powerful expert with strong spiritual power could exterminate a family. Joseph was stunned when he heard this. Wan Menglin was so frightened that she turned around and wanted to run. He. Since you're here, don't leave. Stay here. The expert flying in the sky waved his hand and closed the door. Wan Menglin originally wanted to be the first to run out, but the door was closed tightly. She was so frightened that she sat on the ground and trembled. Why did they have to encounter such a thing? What a coincidence. They came here just when the Long family was about to be exterminated. It's actually a human without any spiritual power. The expert discovered that Joseph and the rest did not have any spiritual power and was surprised. He then relaxed his attack on the Long family's patriarch. Interesting. You're actually from Earth. Ha. All of you will become my dinner. The expert pointed his spear at everyone. For a moment, everyone, including Wan Menglin, was so frightened that they did not dare to move. One must know that there were immortal cultivators in this world. If an immortal cultivator moved a finger, they would not be able to fight back at all. Just as the expert was about to kill everyone with a wave of his hand, however, a blinding light shot out from Yun Jian's hand in front of everyone and easily blocked the attack. Seeing this, the expert's pupils constricted. This little girl was actually able to block his attack. One must know that this little girl did not have any spiritual power. In the various continents, there were only two reasons why one could not see the other party's spiritual power. First, the other party was a human from Earth. Second, the other party's spiritual power was higher than his. Could it be that this little girl? The expert was stunned, then he frowned and asked Yunjian, "Who are you?" At this moment, everyone looked at Yunjian. However, Yunjian released her aura in front of everyone. She looked directly into the expert's eyes without fear. Suddenly, she curled her lips and sneered. Just like 1,000 years ago when she was famous across the continents for killing the gods, all the experts of the continents were frightened by her name. She said coldly, "Despicable commoner, listen carefully to the question of who I am." Chapter 1906. At this moment, Yunjian's aura was fully unleashed. That powerful aura made everyone present shudder. Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Menglin, Joseph, Nikolai, and the rest felt their hearts skip a beat. Yunjian's words made the powerhouse fly in the air in a daze. He could not react for a while. Not to mention the Long family, the last of the three major families in the central mainland. When Joseph brought his people here, the Long family, who could not withstand the powerhouse's attack and were about to be wiped out, only wanted to curse when they saw Joseph and the rest. Were they stupid? Coming here at this juncture was asking for death. However, the Long family did not expect such a huge change. They were not mistaken. A ray of light flew out from the hand of the human girl who did not have any spiritual power and blocked the powerhouse's attack. The girl even called herself Sorcerer Goddess. In the legends, she had been to the gods' continent that no one could reach or even know if it existed in this world. She had even killed the gods of the gods' continent with her bare hands. The Sorcerer Goddess, the daughter of the Sorcerer clan from the Sorcerer clan of the Yulong continent. The Sorcerer Goddess, the youngest and most powerful of the Sorcerer clan. She had led the Yulong continent from the bottom of the tens of thousands of continents to an existence that no other continent could rival except for the legendary gods' continent. Back then, the Yulong continent was the lowest-level continent among the tens of thousands of continents. The people of the Yulong continent were existences that could be trampled on by any continent. Later on, the Sorcerer clan, the #1 family of the Yulong continent, produced a Sorcerer Goddess. In just a few years, this girl named Sorcerer Goddess led the Yulong continent to become the most powerful continent among the tens of thousands of continents other than the legendary gods' continent. Later on, the Sorcerer Goddess fell. Although the Yulong continent was not as powerful as before, it was no longer a continent that could be trampled on by anyone. Later on, there were rumors that the Sorcerer Goddess had been to the gods' continent and had killed the gods of the gods' continent. The Sorcerer Goddess of the Yulong continent was a great figure that was respected and feared by tens of thousands of continents. The most appropriate example was that if the immortal cultivators of the tens of thousands of continents had children who were fooling around and refused to cultivate spiritual power, the parents would only need to say in front of their children, "Stop fooling around. If you don't listen to me, I'll let the Sorcerer God eat you." This child would definitely be so scared that his entire body would tremble, and he would immediately run off to cultivate his spiritual power. However, the Sorcerer God, who had struck fear into the hearts of millions of people, had already fallen. Apart from the Yulong continent, no one from the other continents knew about the return of the Sorcerer God. Therefore, when Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was dumbfounded. Of course, this was only limited to the expert flying in the sky and the people of the Long family. Ni Kra, Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Menglin, and the others did not know the meaning of the two words Sorcerer God. Seeing that everyone was stunned, Wan Menglin was also stunned. Then, she glanced at Yun Jian disdainfully. In front of everyone, she wanted to be in the limelight, so she said, "What is Sorcerer God?" After saying that, Wan Menglin looked at Yun Jian. Her face was full of mockery, contempt, and deep reproach. "Yun Jian, what kind of critical moment is this? Can you be a little more mindful? Do you think you're still on Earth? Do you think that if you pretend to be from the Yulong continent, people will give you face? Don't think too highly of yourself. It's fine if you want to die, but please don't bring harm to all of us." Something like this was happening in the Long family of the central mainland. At the same time in the deity continent. The deity continent really existed, and it stood at the top of the millions of continents. It required a strong spiritual power to open the passage to the deity continent. Similarly, to leave the deity continent to go to the millions of continents or Earth, one also needed to open the passage. There were no more than 10 deities on the deity continent who could open the passage to or from the deity continent. Therefore, Even if the deities on the deity continent really existed, they could not stand in front of everyone. The deity continent, the temple. The temple was the symbol of the deity continent. At the same time, it was also the place where the ruler of the deity continent lived. It symbolized supreme glory. All the deities on the deity continent were under the jurisdiction of the ruler of the temple. In the temple, an old man sat in the middle of the main hall, eating meat and drinking wine. A man walked in from outside the temple. This man was extremely handsome. His tall and slender figure was so perfect that it made people gasp in amazement. Even the splendor of the divine hall was overshadowed by his handsome face. The old man took a bite of chicken. When he saw the man, he was stunned. Then he cheered. "Yo, the ruler of our deity continent, the Lord Divine Lord, is finally willing to come home?" As he spoke, the old man took a bite of chicken drumstick and a sip of wine. He looked at the man left and right as if he was looking for someone. When he could not find the person, the old man scolded the man with dissatisfaction. Chapter 1907. As the old man spoke, he took another bite of the drumstick and drank a mouthful of wine with it, looking extremely satisfied. Xueqi's gaze darkened as he glanced at the old man from the corner of his eyes. Suddenly, he stretched out his right hand and grabbed the air in front of the old man. The old man, who had been sitting comfortably on the short table, was suddenly pulled up by a force and hovered in the air. The drumstick in his hand fell off and spun in front of him. The old man wanted to grab his drumstick, but there was a force that prevented him from doing so. The old man could not break Xueqi's spiritual energy, even after exhausting all his spiritual energy. Pop! The old man burped first and hovered in the air, glaring at Xueqi with his not-so-ferocious eyes before continuing. "Brat, are you trying to kill your father? Hurry up and put me down. You chased after the sorcerer goddess back then and only came back to see me after thousands of years. You're being rude to me the moment you come back. Be careful or I'll spank you." As he spoke, the old man even clenched his fist at Xueqi like an old child. The temple was where the ruler of deity continent resided. The ruler of deity continent was also the ruler of the gods. It was the symbol of supremacy, the symbol of ultimate capability. Xueqi was the ruler of deity continent. Lord Deity was the title the gods of deity continent gave him. This old man was Lord Deity's father, the Lord Deity. At the same time, the old man was also the previous ruler of deity continent. Lord Deity was the title the gods gave to the previous ruler. At this moment, the Lord Main God, who was revered by all the gods, was hovering in the air, unable to land on the ground. "Old man, let me give you a piece of advice. If the beloved disciples you sent to tail her dare show up again, don't blame me for killing them." Xueqi looked at the old man coldly as he uttered those words. Every time he was alone with Xiao Jian or wanted to do something, the annoying fellows the old man sent to watch their every move would appear. If it were not for the old man's dignity, he would have destroyed those fellows directly. With that, he retracted his hand and his spiritual energy dissipated. Like a bird with a broken wing, the old man fell from the air without any warning and landed back where he had been sitting just now. With a loud thud, the old man groaned and rubbed his butt to face Xueqi, feeling wronged. "How can you treat your old man like this? Brat! Be careful, or I'll make the sorcerer goddess Xueqi ignore you forever." "How dare you?" Xueqi's eyes darkened when he heard that the old man wanted her to ignore him forever. The old man was terrified. Seeing the change in Xueqi's expression, he quickly waved his hand. No, I'll listen to you. Which goddess Xueqi is yours? And I dare not snatch her from you." He wasn't being a coward. He was just going easy on him. The old man wiped the sweat off his brow, and instantly felt that it was fortunate that he had cleared up the relationship with the little girl one step ahead of him. He was now the sorcerer goddess Xueqi's master. On the other side, after Wan Menglin mocked Yun Jian, the surroundings were silent. After 2 seconds of silence, the Long family master suddenly looked at Wan Menglin. He didn't even care about the experts who were flying in the sky and almost annihilating the Long family. Wan Menglin was still feeling smug at this moment, but the Long family master suddenly looked at Wan Menglin and said to his Long family guards, "Capture that woman." According to the continent's practice of speaking rudely to the sorcerer goddess, that woman should be burned alive. shatter his soul and scatter his soul. This practice was a rule set by the continents 1,000 years ago. Anyone who spoke rudely to the sorcerer goddess would have their soul shattered after being burned to death. Their soul would be destroyed. They would never be able to reincarnate. What? What kind of practice is this? You're treating human lives like grass. Is there any law? Wan Menglin was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Her face darkened as she shouted. Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, and the others were also shocked. What kind of practice was this? Speaking rudely to Yun Jian. She actually wanted to burn her alive, shatter her soul, and destroy it? Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, and Aikila, and the others present couldn't understand. Yun Jian, who was standing on the same spot, smirked slightly. She turned her head to the side and faced Wan Menglin in front of everyone. She was cold and full of vigor, as if she was the ruler of all things. Her words rang out. The words that came out of her mouth stunned everyone present. Her vigor, her arrogance. Chapter 1908. The sorcerer goddess was the law of the land. This was not an exaggeration at all. Yun Jian had the unique aura of the sorcerer goddess. Even if the Long family and the powerhouses in the sky did not believe it, they could not do it. Who else could have such a strong aura other than the sorcerer goddess? Although they were not within 3 meters of Yun Jian, they could not detect if there was really no spiritual power within 3 meters of the sorcerer goddess. However, with Yun Jian's aura just now, no one else in the world could do it except for the sorcerer goddess. Sorcerer goddess. The head of the Long family suddenly knelt down in front of Yun Jian and shouted. Seeing this, the younger generation of the Long family knelt down and imitated the head of the Long family to kowtow to Yun Jian. In an instant, the scene was extremely chaotic. The only thing that was left in the crowd's ears was the words, sorcerer goddess. It was obvious that the sorcerer goddess was very impressive back then. Even today, thousands of years later, when they heard the words, sorcerer goddess, all the families in the mainland would still kneel down and kowtow to her. In an instant, the words, sorcerer goddess, shook the sky. The powerhouse who was so arrogant in front of the crowd just now wanted to escape when he saw that the situation was not right. However, Yun Jian, who was in front of the crowd, stretched out her hand. She did not even look at the powerhouse. She used her spiritual power to grab the powerhouse's body and squeezed gently. The powerhouse who could annihilate Long family, the tail of Central Mainland's 3 dominant families, all by himself, was killed the moment Yun Jian pinched him lightly in the air. Exploded. The powerhouse's eyes widened. The second before he exploded in front of the crowd, he looked at Yun Jian in disbelief, but he had no choice but to believe it. In the next second, the powerhouse's body was completely destroyed. Not even his bones could be found. He completely disappeared in front of the crowd. Seeing this scene, the head of the Long family and the rest of the Long family gasped in shock. As expected of the sorcerer goddess, she was so powerful that no one could defeat her. That powerhouse just now had the ability to force the Long family into a dead end by himself. But as the sorcerer deity, Yun Jian was able to destroy such a powerful expert with just a pinch of her fingers. Seeing this scene, the people from the Long family sighed, but they didn't want to die. They had seen this kind of scene many times. However, Wan Menglin and the others were so scared that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She, kill, kill, kill. Kill, kill, kill. Wan Menglin was so scared that she stuttered, unable to let out a fart for a long time. However, just as Wan Menglin stuttered for a long time without saying a word, Yun Jian suddenly felt a huge wave of spiritual energy around her. She narrowed her eyes and in the next second, her figure flashed and chased in the direction of the huge wave of spiritual energy. Whether it was the Long family or Joseph's group, since she had come to the central continent, she did not plan to stay for long. At this moment, Yun Jian didn't say anything and just chased after the figure with huge spiritual energy fluctuations. 2 shadows that were as fast as phantoms shuttled through the forest. In the next moment, the figure in front of him landed on the ground. Yun Jian couldn't help but narrow her eyes at someone who could run so far in front of her. This person must be a god from the gods' continent. Apart from the gods' continent's gods, there was no one else who could run so far in front of her before she caught up to them. In the next breath, Yun Jian grabbed the shoulder of the figure who was running at high speed. You've been watching me since we were in the hunting school. What's your motive? After Yun Jian grabbed the figure's owner, her cold voice rang out. The person whose shoulder was grabbed by Yun Jian was a woman who was slightly taller than Yun Jian and had a voluptuous figure. The woman was looking straight ahead, so Yun Jian couldn't see her face clearly. Hearing that Yun Jian had discovered her long ago, the woman was obviously shocked. However, Yun Jian's words rang out again. These words made the woman even more flabbergasted. Chapter 1909. If what Yun Jian said just now was not shocking enough, the way she addressed her as senior sister was a huge blow to the woman's ego. How did she know? The woman thought so and asked, "How do you know who I am?" Master met you on Earth, but we've never met. How do you know of my existence? He speaks the truth when he's drunk. Apart from me, he only has one disciple. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Obviously, Master Bailey spoke the truth when he was drunk. He told Yun Jian that he had another female disciple apart from Yun Jian. The woman was speechless when she heard that. She felt like she had been betrayed by her stupid master. The woman didn't feel like she had betrayed her master's trust when she was caught stalking her and recognized her identity. All right, since you recognized me, I won't hide anymore. The woman turned around and looked at Yun Jian. What entered Yun Jian's eyes was a woman's face with an ancient charm. The woman had a strong scholarly smell, but her body was so charming that men couldn't stop looking at her. Her seemingly innocent face, coupled with her voluptuous breasts and plump buttocks, made her look cold, gentle, sexy, and a little mysterious. It had to be said that an ordinary person would give off a strange feeling if they were to have these characteristics. However, when everything was presented on this woman, there was a unique kind of beauty that opened people's eyes. Even Yun Jian couldn't help but blink. I've heard that you're the only disciple apart from me. Strictly speaking, you're my junior sister. The woman reached out her hand to Yun Jian and said boldly, "It's my first time meeting you. I'm Huang Yan, the first disciple of the deity continent's master god." The woman who called herself Huang Yan was very bold and straightforward. She had the refreshing feeling of a heroine. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and reached out to shake her hand. She rarely shook hands, so the people who could shake hands with her must be people she was happy to know. After shaking hands with him, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled faintly. Yun Jian, daughter of the sorcerer clan of the sorcerer tribe of the Yulong continent, sorcerer goddess. After Yun Jian finished speaking, the two of them got to know each other for the first time. When Huang Yan heard this, he curled his lips. I know you. Master asked me to investigate a lot of information about you. He chased you from Earth to the central continent and asked me to keep an eye on you. I didn't expect that I would be exposed right from the start. As Huang Yan spoke, he drew an arc. Yun Jian was not stupid. Naturally, it was impossible for her not to have guessed the identity of her master by now. Just now, Huang Yan had also said that she was the #1 disciple of the master god of the gods continent. In other words, her teacher was the master god of the gods continent. When Yun Jian was the sorcerer goddess, she had been to the gods continent. Perhaps she hadn't recovered some specific memories yet, but she still knew what the gods continent's master gods represented. The master god of the gods continent was the previous ruler of the gods continent. At the same time, he was also the master god's father. Yun Jian, who knew the truth, curled the corners of her lips. When she thought of her master's childish appearance and the identity of the master god of the gods continent, it was really inappropriate. Originally, after being discovered by you, I should have taken you directly to the gods continent, but I'm not strong enough. When I came here, it was Master who opened the passage to leave the gods continent for me. If I want to go back, Master will come to pick me up 3 days later, Huang Yan said seriously. I can open it, Yun Jian answered. What? Huang Yan was stunned. I can open the passage to the gods continent, Yun Jian repeated in detail. After Huang Yan heard this, he was really stunned. I've long heard rumors of your strength in the gods continent. You've even killed a god from the gods continent. I've always thought that you were able to go to the gods continent because some expert let you in. After all, there are no more than 10 gods in the gods continent who can open the passage to the gods continent. Chapter 1910. Huang Yan was a little shocked. She was a god of the gods' continent after all. Even if she was shocked, she would not show it on her face. Hence, the two of them headed to the entrance of the gods' continent. If they wanted to go to the gods' continent, they had to activate the teleportation circle at the designated location. There were no more than 10 people in the world who could activate the teleportation circle at the designated location. Apart from Yun Jian, the rest were all gods of the gods' continent. However, even Yun Jian had to go through the designated location to activate the teleportation circle to the gods' continent. When Huang Yan came out of the gods' continent, it was the master god who activated the teleportation circle at the designated location. The designated location to the gods' continent was the Tan family, the leader of the 3 great families of the central continent. At the same time, in the hunting school, Yi Ling had stayed in the hunting school for so many years. She had very few things that belonged to her. She only had 2 sets of clothes and almost nothing else. For example, the dead 211 and the group of women who were with him had stayed in the hunting school for so many years. However, 211 and the group of women who were with him had beautiful clothes and jewelry. They were all luxury goods that could be sold at a good price. This was because those things were obtained by 211 and the group of women using their bodies in exchange for those things. Yi Ling packed her things in the girls' dormitory building and waited excitedly for Lin Wei downstairs. She could finally leave the hunting school. At this moment, the excitement in Yi Ling's heart could not be described with words. Lin Wei didn't pack anything. Seeing Yi Ling waiting for him downstairs in the female dormitory, he walked over in a few steps and wanted to help her carry her luggage. No, I can carry it myself. Yi Ling carried her luggage with both hands and wanted to reject Lin Wei's kindness. However, Lin Wei grabbed the luggage that Yi Ling was carrying with both hands and left with Yi Ling, not allowing her to refuse. Just as they got into Lin Wei's Maserati sports car, Yi Ling hugged her luggage and asked Lin Wei, "Where are we going? Can I go home now?" Travel. Lin Wei was still a man of few words. He gave Yi Ling a simple reply. Travel? Yi Ling was stunned. If Adam or Snow Eagle were here, they would probably be stunned by Lin Wei's words. Traveling? In the past, when Adam went on a trip with the Snow Eagle organization, Lin Wei rejected them very straightforwardly. The reason was only one word. Boredom. Yi Ling naturally didn't know this, but she wanted to go home, so she turned her head to look at Lin Wei, pursed her lips and asked Lin Wei, "Then after the trip, can I go home?" Okay. Lin Wei agreed. Yi Ling's heart was suddenly filled with excitement. However, Lin Wei's next sentence broke Yi Ling's excitement. He said, "You can after you give birth to the child." Yi Ling was speechless. Why was he so obsessed with having children? On the other side, in the Tan family, the leader of the 3 great families in the central mainland, there was a mountain not far from the Tan family's residence. Beside the mountain, there was an abandoned array. Legend had it that as long as this array was activated, one would be able to head to the deity's continent. However, this was only a legend. However, beside this abandoned formation, there was sufficient spiritual energy. In layman's terms, cultivating beside this abandoned formation would be 10 times faster than cultivating outside. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the disciples of the Tan family would cultivate beside this abandoned formation. When Yun Jian and Huang Yan arrived, they saw many disciples of the Tan family cultivating beside this abandoned formation. Although this formation was abandoned, as long as enough spiritual energy was injected into this formation, the abandoned formation could be opened and one could head to the deity's continent. Yun Jian and Huang Yan had just arrived, but before they could reach the abandoned formation, they were stopped by someone. "Who are you? What are you doing here? Don't you know that this is a forbidden area? Other than the people of the Tan family, outsiders are not allowed to enter." Chapter 1911. The Tan family was actually responsible for guarding the passage between the gods' continent and the other continents. They were the guardian family of this abandoned Dharma array. At the same time, the strength of the Tan family's disciples was also very strong. That was because cultivating at the entrance to the gods' continent, which was the abandoned Dharma array, could be 10 times faster than cultivating outside. Therefore, among the thousands of continents, the Tan family's strength could not be underestimated. At the same time, The Tan family had also guarded this abandoned Dharma array for generations in order to prevent some bad people from getting close to the Dharma array and destroying it. When Huang Yan came out of the God's continent, she was not discovered by anyone in the Tan family. As for the matter of the sorcerer god going to the God's continent and killing the gods of the God's continent, it was also spread by the ancestors of the Tan family. This was because the ancestors of the Tan family had seen the sorcerer god open this abandoned Dharma array and go to the God's continent with their own eyes. Now, after a long time, the people of the Tan family still firmly believed that the God's continent really existed in this world. They had been guarding this abandoned Dharma array, absorbing the spiritual power emitted by the Dharma array and protecting it. At this moment, the burly man standing in front of Yun Jian and Huang Yan was looking at Yun Jian and Huang Yan with a vicious expression. Seeing that Yun Jian and Huang Yan did not move or leave, the burly and muscular man roared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan. "Why are you still not leaving?" After roaring, the man revealed a ferocious expression at Yun Jian and Huang Yan. Ordinary girls, even if they were cultivators, would have been scared away by the man's ferocious expression and terrifying aura. Seeing that Yun Jian and Huang Yan did not move, the man frowned. "Big brother, are you going to be kind again? This is our Tan family's forbidden area. Trespassers will die. According to our Tan family's rules, anyone who enters our Tan family's forbidden area will be killed without mercy. Big brother, you have already let go of 2 people who mistakenly entered our Tan family's forbidden area. If you ignore our Tan family's rules like this, how will you inherit our Tan family's great cause in the future? This time, no matter what, I will not let anyone who enters our Tan family's forbidden area leave alive." After the tall and sturdy man roared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan, a young man behind him led a group of Tan family disciples over. Hearing the young man's words, the tall and sturdy man was the eldest son of the Tan family, Tan Ming. At the same time, he was also the next successor of the Tan family. As for the young man following behind, the one who had spoken to Tan Ming, he was the second young master of the Tan family, Tan Liang. The Tan family had 2 young masters. The eldest young master, Tan Ming, and the second young master, Tan Liang, were not born from the same mother. Yun Jian could tell at a glance that the person who had just roared at her and Huang Yan, telling them not to leave quickly, was the eldest young master, Tan Ming. The Tan family had 2 sons. Tan Ming was tall and sturdy. He was not handsome, but he was the future heir of the Tan family. Tan Liang was the exact opposite of Tan Ming. Tan Liang was handsome and was highly sought after by girls. Tan Liang had been eyeing Tan Ming's position as the future successor of the Tan family for a long time. Just now, Tan Ming Chong had roared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan. It was obvious that he wanted to save them. This was the Tan family's forbidden area. According to the Tan family's rules, ordinary people who trespassed would die. Tan Ming, who had hurriedly walked over and roared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan, was trying to save them. He wanted them to quickly run away before Tan Liang could arrive. That was why he had revealed such a ferocious expression. Unexpectedly, Tan Liang had been staring at them for a long time. As soon as he heard the noise, he hurriedly walked over. "They just happened to pass by here. There's no need to kill." Tan Ming frowned when he heard Tan Liang's words. He turned to look at Yun Jian and Huang Yan and roared, "Why aren't the 2 of you scram?" This action was also to save Yun Jian and Huang Yan. Yun Jian, who was opposite him, narrowed her eyes slightly. At this moment, a young girl standing not far away stared at Yun Jian and Huang Yan and said, "Big brother, second brother is right. They have broken into our Tan family's forbidden area. They must die." After the young girl finished speaking, she turned her eyes to Yun Jian with a fierce expression. "Speak, what are you doing here? Tell me your purpose and I'll let you die quickly. I'll send you to our Tan family servants and let you enjoy a round of female family happiness before you die. Then I'll send you to heaven." The young girl who spoke was the Tan family's 5th miss, Tan Tingling. Tan Tingling's words were not polite at all. The meaning behind her words was extremely unpleasant. This abandoned Dharma array had been abandoned for many years. Other than the sorcerer god, the Tan family had never seen anyone who could open the Dharma array that led to the deity's continent. Therefore, the young girl and the people of the Tan family naturally did not think that Yun Jian and Huang Yan were here to open the Dharma array. Opening the Dharma array that led to the deity's continent was simply something that ordinary people could not do. Even in the deity's continent, There were only a mere 10 people who could do this. Therefore, everyone concluded that Yun Jian and Huang Yan must have come to destroy the abandoned Dharma array. However, just when everyone thought so, they saw that Yun Jian, who was standing in front of everyone, narrowed her eyes slightly after hearing the young girl's words. In the next breath, an ancient and heavenly female voice clearly reached everyone's ears. Hearing this, everyone's faces changed greatly. These words seemed to have come from thousands of years ago, but they were still arrogant. Chapter 19:12. Yun Jian's eyes darkened slightly. She said this very calmly. However, after hearing Yun Jian's words, everyone present was stunned. Everyone present was someone who had weathered many storms and waves. They quickly regained their senses. The sorcerer god of Yulong continent? Tan Tingling, who had been acting like a spoiled brat, was stunned and asked Yun Jian this question. The reason why the Tan family was guarding this abandoned formation was so that one day, they would be able to see the supreme deity from the god's continent. They had absolute respect for the sorcerer god who could enter and leave God's continent. Moreover, the Tan family believed that this abandoned formation could lead to God's continent after it was activated. God's continent really existed in this world. In addition, if the gods wanted to enter God's continent, they had to pass through this formation. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Tan Tingling's expression changed abruptly. When Tan Ming and Tan Liang heard this, their expressions changed drastically as well. After Tan Ming's expression changed, he hurriedly said to the Tan family disciples behind him, "Hurry up and find father." Regardless of whether the sorcerer god was the real one, they had to call the Tan family's patriarch, who was also their father, over first. "There's no need." The one who spoke now was Huang Yan. "Junior sister, let's go." Huang Yan turned his head and spoke to Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded. Because of Yun Jian's words, the Tan family members did not dare to stop her. The group of people watched as Yun Jian and Huang Yan walked toward the abandoned formation. Was she really the sorcerer god? Tan Tingling wiped her sweat carefully and looked at Yun Jian. Just as she was about to speak, Yun Jian was interrupted. A scene that shocked Tan Tingling, Tan Ming, and Tan Liang happened. Yun Jian extended her hand and pointed it at the abandoned formation. In the next second, a powerful spiritual power surged out of her hand and poured into the abandoned formation. The formation on the ground suddenly spun. In the end, a white light flashed and pulled Yun Jian and Huang Yan into it. The wind blew gently. After the white light flashed, Yun Jian and Huang Yan disappeared from where they were. It was as if nothing had happened. It's really the sorcerer god. Back then, when the sorcerer god was still young, he killed the deities of the god's continent and became the strongest existence among the thousands of continents. The sorcerer god has returned. Quick, go and spread the news. Let everyone know that the king of the myriad continents has returned. When everyone in the Tan family saw this, they were so frightened that they knelt at the spot where Yun Jian had disappeared. Their exclamations, shouts, and cheers were thunderous. 1,000 years ago, the sorcerer god was the god in the hearts of the people of every continent. Today, 1,000 years later, she was still an immortal legend. Wherever he went, he was respected by tens of thousands of people. Xinming Continent. Ce was about to leave to find his Xiao Jian when he was stopped by the old man. "Just play a round of chess with your cute old man. Just this once. Later, I'll give you my cute little disciple. You can play with her however you want." The old man pestered Ce with his words. Hence, Ce stayed. When the game of chess ended and Ce turned around, he saw the entrance of the temple. Yun Jian's petite figure stood at the entrance. Her perfect figure paired with the face he was so familiar with and loved deeply. Ce stared at Yun Jian and strode over. He went to Yun Jian in a few steps and pulled her into his arms. "How did you find your way here?" He was only here to warn the old man not to let his beloved disciple follow him and Xiao Jian again. Yun Jian knew that Ce did not come here without telling her on purpose. Yun Jian was not surprised to see Ce here either. It was because when she came, Huang Yan had told her everything. In spite of it, Yun Jian still pushed him away and ignored him, pretending to be annoyed. She would only act like this in front of him. After pushing Ce away, Yun Jian went to the old man and bowed to him, saying softly, "Master, I finally found you. Thank you for teaching me back then." Yun Jian was genuinely grateful. When she was slaying God, she did not have the memories of the sorcerer god. She was no different from a normal human being back then. If it were not for her master, she might have died in that ruthless world. Hey, don't. What's there to bow and thank? We're family. I still want to live for a few more years. The old man waved his hand at Yun Jian in fright after being glared at with murderous intent. Chapter 1913. Her master was still the same. He had not changed at all. Yun Jian straightened her back and looked at the old man, flashing him a knowing smile. The smile came from the bottom of her heart. There was gratitude, satisfaction toward her current life, and many other indescribable emotions in her smile. Ce, who stood aside, was surprised to see Yun Jian smiling at the old man. She had never shown such an expression to him before. Ce went over to grab Yun Jian's hand and encircled Yun Jian in his arms. Glancing at the old man from the corner of his eyes, he told Yun Jian, "Xiao Jian, ignore this crazy old man." As he spoke, he tugged her hand and walked out. Watching Ce leave with Yun Jian's hand in his, the smile on the old man's face faded. Taking a sip of wine, the old man sighed and turned to look at Huang Yan. "Yan, your stalking skills still need to be improved. Both of them realize that you're following them." The old man sounded like he was reprimanding Huang Yan in a serious manner. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the old man suddenly added, "Next time, it will be Master's turn to follow the two of them. Learn from Master's invincible tracking skills." Huang Yan smirked, not wanting to expose the adorable old man as he replied, "Yes." After the old man finished speaking, he suddenly became solemn and respectful. He looked at Huang Yan and said very solemnly to Huang Yan, "Bring the witch goddess out tonight. I have something to tell her." "Yes." Huang Yan nodded his head. After Ce led Yun Jian out of the shrine's main hall, he went straight to his bedroom. The Ce shrine's bedroom was antique, clean and tidy without being flashy. There were not many things placed in the room, so one could count them all at a glance. Just as they entered Ce's bedroom, Yun Jian looked around curiously. Just as she did so, Yun Jian suddenly felt someone hugging her from behind. Needless to say, it was definitely him. After hugging Yun Jian, he gently pressed Yun Jian's back against a classical table in the bedroom. "Let's go to bed." Yun Jian knew what Ce was going to do and blushed. "Right here. I like it." Ce wasn't shy at all. As soon as she finished speaking, she started to move. The scenery of the gods' continent was very beautiful. There were no changes in the 4 seasons. The scenery here was like the beginning of spring all year round. The morning dew sprinkled down, fresh and free, giving people a kind of mysterious beauty. The gods' continent also had day and night. This was the same as the Earth and the other continents. Yun Jian really didn't go out for the whole afternoon. By the time night fell, her legs were already soft. Later, Huang Yan said that he wanted to take Yun Jian out for a walk. Only then did Ce let Yun Jian go. Yun Jian didn't let him tag along. Just as he took Yun Jian out of Ce's bedroom, Huang Yan said to Yun Jian, "Master is looking for you." When she heard that her master was looking for her, Yun Jian immediately went over. The old man was still sitting in the main hall of the temple. When he saw Yun Jian walk in, he quickly stood up. Come. My precious disciple, come. The old man waved at Yun Jian. "Master, why are you looking for me?" Yun Jian asked. Hearing this, the old man didn't hide it anymore. He looked at Yun Jian and instantly put away his childish look. His expression suddenly changed, and the childlike old man from before disappeared without a trace. Every time this happened, Yun Jian knew that her master must have something important to say. The old man looked at Yun Jian and very solemnly cut to the chase. Chapter 1914. Hearing her master's words, Yun Jian's eyes flashed with a profound light. In the next second, she nodded at her master with great certainty. "I want to recover all my memories as the sorcerer god. I must recover them." Then what if recovering the sorcerer god's memories puts you in danger? Or even death?
The old man looked straight at Yunjian and asked.
He has already recovered all his memories, right? Yunjian asked the old man. He was naturally referring to Ce. When the old man heard that Yunjian had already guessed it, he didn't hide it anymore. That brat recovered his memories long ago. Today, I asked Huang Yan to bring you out alone so that the brat wouldn't know that I wanted to help you recover your memories. Otherwise, he would definitely stop me. After saying this, the old man sighed again and said to Yunjian, I won't hide it from you. I won't hide it from you. If you recover your memories today, you'll definitely be dragged into this again. That stinking brat doesn't want you to recover your memories because he wants to bear everything by himself. I'm not siding with that brat. I just feel that you have the right to choose whether to advance and retreat with him or leave him to bear everything by himself. As the old man spoke, he added, if you recover your memories, your life will be in danger at any time. My disciple, it's up to you to choose the future. I choose to recover my memories, Yunjian said firmly without hesitation. After hearing Yunjian's words, the old man nodded in satisfaction. Good. He was very satisfied with her answer. With that, the old man flipped his hand, and a bottle of potion filled with immortal qi appeared in his hand. He gently tossed the potion to Yunjian. After Yunjian caught the potion, the old man suddenly returned to his original mischievous appearance. He looked at Yunjian and said, this is a memory potion that I specially concocted. It's called, Long Live the Strongest, Most Handsome, and Most Powerful Lord God. Drink it and you'll immediately regain your memories. The old man's narcissism wasn't something to brag about. Even steel couldn't break it. The corners of Yunjian's mouth twitched, but she still gave the old man a knowing smile. Then she opened the lid of the potion and drank it all in one gulp.
In the depths of his mind, a certain memory that had been locked away was unlocked after the potion entered his stomach and spread throughout his body.
The memories of being the sorcerer god flooded her like an avalanche. The gears of memory brought her back to thousands of years ago, to the age when she was in her prime. 1,000 years ago. As the daughter of the sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer goddess was the most powerful being in the sorcerer tribe. She led the sorcerer tribe and the Yulong continent from the lowest level continent to the strongest continent. Before all the karma started, before the sorcerer god met the divine lord. That day, the sorcerer god had left Yulong mainland for a few months. When she returned to the sorcerer tribe, many of the sorcerer tribe's young ladies had been defiled by a man. The men of the sorcerer tribe had been killed by that man. That's right. This man was a god of the deity continent. At the same time, his strength was strong enough to open a formation from the deity continent to the other continents. The sorcerer god chased the man all the way to the Tan family in the central mainland. She opened a passage to the deity continent in front of the Tan family members. After arriving at the deity continent, she killed the man on the deity continent. The god was killed by the young ladies of the deity continent. The gods of the deity continent then invited the ruler of the deity continent, the divine lord, to the scene. That was the first time the sorcerer god met the divine lord. She held the butterfly knife in her hand and stood stubbornly among the gods. She looked into his eyes without fear. Chapter 19:15. Are you the ruler of the deity's continent, the divine emperor? This was the first question she asked when she saw him. At this moment, the sorcerer goddess was holding a butterfly knife in her hand. She was stepping on the god who had defiled the girl of the sorcerer tribe and killed the man of the sorcerer tribe. Yes. The divine emperor, who did not care about anyone else, answered her question in front of everyone. Sir divine emperor. The deity's continent is the ruler of all things. Every god is a supreme being. Today, they were killed by a weak girl from the thousands of continents. You must kill her to seek justice for the gods of the deity's continent. An old man from the deity's continent stared at the sorcerer goddess and said to the divine emperor. After the old man finished speaking, the deities standing around him nodded their heads in agreement. Yes, how can the gods of the deity's continent be killed by her? Even if our gods have done something wrong, it is what they should have done. People from the lowly continent should be stepped on by us. Yes, Sir Divine Emperor, please kill her immediately. The divine emperor could hear the voices of the surrounding gods. However, he did not move. The surrounding gods only opened their mouths but did not dare to attack the sorcerer goddess. The god that the sorcerer goddess had just killed was one of the 5 most powerful gods of the deity's continent. One could imagine how powerful this girl from the lowly continent was. Perhaps only the divine emperor could subdue her in the entire deity's continent. The divine emperor did not listen to the chatter around him. He looked at her and asked, "Why did you kill him?" "He killed my people and defiled the girls of my tribe. He deserved to die." The sorcerer goddess did not look at him. She stared at the ground and tightened her grip on the butterfly knife. The divine emperor narrowed his eyes. However, just as the divine sovereign was about to speak, the group of gods standing around him suddenly coughed up blood and collapsed to the ground, dead. Seeing this, the divine emperor and the sorcerer goddess frowned. "He. The ruler of the deity's continent, so divine emperor? The old master god is dying?" He handed over the deity's continent to a young boy like you. A man in a black robe appeared in the sky. This person's entire body was black, revealing only a pair of pitch-black eyes. This person was none other than the mysterious man. "Who are you?" The divine lord looked over with a frown. This little girl's willpower is not bad. She actually survived?" The mysterious man glanced at the sorcerer god in surprise. The surrounding gods were not weak, but in front of the mysterious man, they couldn't even withstand one move. The witch god was not killed by the mysterious man's pressure just now, which showed how powerful she was. He. Interesting. Interesting. Enjoy the maze that I've left for you." The mysterious man waved his hand and disappeared in front of the god and the sorcerer god. After the mysterious man disappeared, the forest suddenly turned into a bottomless abyss. There was no sign of life in the surroundings. When the divine lord saw this, he tried to use his spiritual energy, but to no avail. That mysterious person's spiritual energy was not necessarily above his, but the bottomless abyss that the mysterious person had conjured had used spiritual energy that he could not break. The divine lord frowned. "That person is looking for you. This has nothing to do with me. Goodbye." The sorcerer god saw this and turned to walk to the other side of the bottomless abyss. "Didn't you hear what he said? None of us can get out. Don't walk around. The bottom of the bottomless abyss is filled with God-destroying rocks. If you fall, even a god's soul will be destroyed." Seeing that the sorcerer goddess was about to turn around and walk away, the immortal monarch stepped forward and grabbed her sleeve. The sorcerer god was wearing a classic black robe. After fighting with the god just now, her robe had many holes in it. With the divine lord's tug, the plain clothes in front of her chest were pulled down. The sorcerer god had developed well and was very plump. Her breasts were a little swollen these days, so she did not wear underwear. Chapter 19:16. The black clothes the sorcerer goddess wore resembled ancient tights. When the tights were wrapped around the sorcerer goddess body, the sorcerer goddess body was fully displayed. When the divine lord tugged, he could see everything inside clearly. Their development was indeed very good. The divine lord was mesmerized. The sorcerer goddess could not react in time. When the sorcerer goddess reacted, although she did not scream like the other women, her face was still red. She quickly pulled the clothes back to their original position. The sorcerer goddess raised her hand and slapped the divine lord's handsome face. Shameless! The women of the sorcerer tribe valued their chastity the most. The sorcerer tribe had a rule that if a woman lost her chastity before marriage, she would either marry the other party, kill the other party, or die. The sorcerer goddess had never been treated like this by a man. Hence, she blushed and slapped the divine lord. As the ruler of the gods' continent, the divine lord was also the ruler of all things. He had been respected and flattered since he was young. He had never been slapped before. Moreover, the other party was a young woman. The divine lord grabbed the sorcerer goddess' wrist with a flip of his hand. It was the behavior of a gentleman to never lay a hand on a woman. He was no gentleman. If anyone provoked him, he would kill them regardless of whether they were men or women. This was the divine lord's style. The sorcerer goddess had slapped him just now. Based on the divine lord's personality, he would have killed the sorcerer goddess by now. But after he grabbed her wrist, He just pulled her wrist and walked towards the steep cliff and the bottomless abyss.
Please let go of my hand.
The sorcerer goddess' face was red. No man had seen her body before. Not only had he seen her upper body, but he was also holding her wrist. The divine lord grabbed the sorcerer goddess' wrist and said gently, "Don't move. I'll take you away from here." At this moment, the two of them were standing in a narrow passage on the cliff. It was only enough for one person to pass through. The two of them stepped on the narrow passage. The sorcerer goddess could still step on the passage with both of her feet.
On the other hand, the divine lord who was looking at her had half of his foot on the passage and the other half hanging outside.
At the bottom of the cliff was the god-slaying rock. As the name suggested, the god-slaying rock was magma used to kill gods. Even if a god accidentally fell into the god-slaying rock, they would be instantly turned into ashes. This was the power of the god-slaying rock. The sorcerer goddess saw that the divine lord was taking her away. She pursed her lips and stopped making goddess. She did not say anything else. God-goddess's eyes. The divine lord's gaze. The sorcerer goddess. God-slaying rock's body. Slaying God's body's body. Goddesses God's body. After a while, the divine lord quickly said, "Our spiritual energy is hindered here, so we can't use it normally. But don't worry, you were dragged into this because of me. I'll definitely take you out of here safely." Goddess, hold me tight, he suddenly said to her. Is God Lord, goddesses? Was goddess God? Goddess. There's a cave at the bottom of the cliff. Hold me tight and I'll bring you into the cave, the divine lord explained. With that, the divine lord paused for a moment before adding, "Just a while. I won't take advantage of you." Since he had said so, she couldn't refuse. Furthermore, neither of them could use their spiritual power here. The mysterious person was also unable to use his spiritual energy here. This place created by the mysterious person should be another space. Only then did the sorcerer god gently reach out and press his front body against his chest, hugging him tightly. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.